All right, so today I'm not sure what I want to talk about. I don't have scripts. I usually don't have scripts, and I didn't really think through. I just know that I needed to turn on the camera and talk to somebody, talk about something. I'm getting care via the VA, getting therapy, but since like the VA has always been a struggle, they don't get enough. They don't get enough like money for or resources, and they try to make do with what they have. And then recently, with whatever happened with this Doge bullshit, where Elon Musk comes in and just wipes out everything and probably steals all of our data, putting USB devices in places that they don't belong. Um, Today I was supposed to have an appointment, but it was canceled, and I was also put in for, I guess, an orientation for PTSD assessment, which I was told it was going to be a moral injury thing, but I found out it's all the same thing. And I also found out that they'd probably be, I'd have to postpone my current therapist visits discussions, which I've already got like a rapport set up with, and like I've been seeing them for the past half year or so forth. So it's like I don't want to give that up just to be part of some very hypercritical, high rolled PTSD thing where I guess we don't even talk about, like, I don't know what's, I think it's going to be useful to do something like that. But one, I'm a veteran, but I'm not a combat veteran. I don't see, I don't want to shame people. I don't want to make anyone feel like their pain is less. But for me personally, I can't relate to a combat veteran. Okay. I've seen things, I've seen pictures of things, I've seen red horizons when we're bombing a location. I've seen that. I've heard people die. I mean, I heard people getting killed over things, but I've never went out and got shot at. I never did anything like that. So I like there's a lot to it. Everybody's pain and trauma is their own. It's unique. Not one is the same as the other. But there's a lot of I got a lot of like I don't know how else to put it. It's like when you think about the veteran community, a lot of you might think, oh, a lot of them also voted for Trump, and the things that I worry about, the things that I'm having a moral injury over, are actually heavily related to right wing politics, heavily related to even things that I've seen Democrats do. I mean, when it boils down to it in the end, like I kind of don't want to be in a group of people that I know voted for Trump or might have suspected. I kind of don't feel comfortable going out and talking to people that might not really take my pain and my consideration serious, because we're talking about group sessions and they had an option for individual and couples and stuff like that. And I don't really want to think about it too much, but I need to get out. Like I've been thinking so much about my moral injury, thinking about what it is that I have. Why do I feel like this? I don't know if I've put a video out like this on YouTube yet. I don't have a script. I don't have anything like that. I'm not like when I'm looking left and right, I'm just focusing. I'm not reading anything. So that's the main reason why, like, whenever I try to do a video like this, I don't put it out because I say personal things about people that could hurt them, could hurt me. And a lot of people don't deserve like any shade that I might throw at them on accident. So if I do throw shade in this video, because I'm gonna try to make sure I post this video, I apologize in advance. I don't want people thinking it's their fault. I don't see fault in certain people for doing the things they've done. Um, and that even goes with, well, I'm not gonna go that far. I was gonna say that it kind of even goes with the government. I'm pissed off at the government. I'm very, very pissed off at it. And it's not just this Trump Doge bullshit. It's not just right wing. It's also the Democrats. They are just as much as part of the problem. And not Democrat voters, not Republican voters. I'm talking about the actual people in there, the administration, the strategists. I just heard recently a strategist come out and call AOC, the community of us that support her, like we're real people. I'm nearly 40 years old. I'm not a child. He comes out and says that we are the OnlyFans community, which is fucking perverted. That's disgusting for you. Obviously, she's a beautiful woman. She probably is on the minds of so many men in a way that they should not be objectifying her over. And for a Democratic strategist to come out and openly say something like that exposes his own internal bias to the point he looks at her with a perverted pornographic view. Okay, so this guy probably touches himself at night thinking about her. He probably follows the OnlyFans of his niece. Like, you know what? There's so much I can fucking say about this shit to the point that I'm disgusted by it, and I'm not gonna like. I guess I should be careful because what I'm saying could be libel. Then let me just say this: this is my opinion. I'm not. I don't know what he does. I don't know who the fuck he is even. But all I know is if you're gonna sit there and call one of the best politicians we've seen in decades, people piss me off when they talk about how bad Obama was. And you got to realize when Obama came out and was speaking and giving us hope, I saw my father in Obama. Obama looked like my father. He looks like my father. So it's like I saw myself in a politician finally. And I heard him saying things that resonated with me, that gave me fire for politics. And I wasn't even able to vote in the 2008 election because I was in boot camp. And you know what they did to us in boot camp is they were constantly giving us propaganda saying Democrats, or they're like one part. They didn't say specifically. They said one party is going to destroy this country. So I like politics. You probably shouldn't have to worry about politics. Don't, like, they discouraged us over and over for voting, and I never voted. By the time I got to A school, Obama had been elected, and I remember coming outside of my barracks, and there's white people crying. White people were crying in tears, disgusted and appalled that a black man had got elected. Like, that's what I saw right off the bat, right off the jump. And I was happy. I was ecstatic. I was like, I can't believe we actually did this. I had to deal with Bush all these years. And I was so concerned that when I was going to get elected, when I was going to get into the military, that I was going to be probably doing some bad things for the military for Bush. And that's I'm not sure of the term right now, but when it comes to my military service, like, I was on a ship. I was in the Navy. And I only lasted 3 years before I tried to off myself. And a lot of things led up to that. And I didn't get kicked out because of the actual attempt. I got kicked out because of several months of mental illness, things that prevented me from being able to get on the ship, spazzing out in group therapy, like so many things that at some point they said, nah, you can't be, like, this is over. You can't do this anymore. Like, we tried to make sure that I can stay on a ship, because I had just made rank. I just made E5. For those of you in the military, you understand the frocking system. I got discharged as an E4 when I had made E5. And on our ship, E5s are very powerful, like, these were the type of people that like, everyone looked up to, everyone reacted to, everyone said, hey, we need to make sure that we got a good E5 on this, and the E5s were getting things done. Like, in our shop and in our department. I mean, it's very hard to make rank in other departments, but it was very easy to make rank in our departments, especially for someone like me. I had spent, like, there was a period on deployment that I stayed awake an entire week, and some of you will call bullshit on that. I would we had a comms outage, and some equipment was down, and there was one piece of equipment that nobody knew how to get up and running. There was a book for it. And I was like, I dropped out of college to join the military, and I assumed that I was smarter than everyone, which, hint, hint, I'm not. So I am pretty smart, I guess, but according to tests, according to my schools, according to other people. But in reality, like, there's plenty of people are smart in their own ways. But at the time, I had it in my head that I was like one of the smartest people on a ship, which I wasn't. But I spent time making sure that I was going to get this equipment running, get it going, so that way we can at least have comms again. And I would read the book and then work on the equipment. We'd had to wait for equipment to come in, so I would have to also do my actual job for everything else. I would go down to the hangar bay and run for 5 miles and then come back up and keep working. And I did that every day. And for a whole week straight, I didn't go to my rack. I just stayed in my shop, well, in the multiple shops that I had to frequent, just going. Even waiting for parts to come. When parts were coming, I just spent time studying this book, studying the equipment, and eventually we got it up and running, and it worked. And me and this other guy were the only two people on a ship that even knew how it worked. We were the only ones. So I mean, I've done things like this, and when I was in the military, I was very gung ho about I'm not gonna go attend the MWR event because that's great. Like we had the Avatar people come onto our ship. We had Michelle Rodriguez, which I did get a picture with her, but it's lost because I don't know who took the picture, and it's been gone ever since. We had Sigourney Weaver on there. We had other people. So when first Avatar came out, they flew out to our ship, and it's like I went down and watched part of the movie a little bit, and then went back up working, and I just nonstop work for the whole deployment. And I was very gung ho about my time and my service. That we all should be militant. We all should be about the mission. We should all make sure we're make sure there's no loss of life, make sure everything goes smoothly, and make sure we all get home. Like I really wanted to make sure that we could communicate, we could do this, we could do that. So I took my job serious. I took my mission serious. There's one particular one particular thing that happened that still it runs through my head every day about what this was. And we I had a senior chief he's since passed. He had died probably a year after I got out. Um, but he had pulled me. He said, "Come on, we're gonna get this. We're gonna get this machine going." So he pulled me over. He's like, "We got to get this going." The Marines were in our shop. They were like waiting for us to get something going, and he's like showing me how to put all these pieces of equipment together in a way that was going to get us comms in a way that I didn't understand. Like I wasn't quite aware that we could do it like that. So I was excited, and I'm sitting there learning. I'm running back and forth. I'm taking notes. I'm trying to do everything, and we get it going. And I'm just so excited. And they turn on we're listening to the comms where the Marines are talking, and I hear "got him." I was like, "What got him?" I was like, "Got what?" No, they got him. They killed him. I was like, "Killed who?" Like the guy in the yellow truck that they were chasing. I was like, "Oh shit!" Like imagine this. You are excited to learn a new piece of equipment, new piece of gear, to learn a new kind of engineering or theory, and you jump into it and you learn everything about it, and you're just so stoked to look like one of the top runners for this thing. And your result is it costs someone their loss of life. Now, I mean, we've all seen like military movies and such, and there's bad guys, the quote unquote bad guys, that you got to kill them to stop them from hurting you. This was a weird situation, right? And it's like you might think, oh, we got to get Batty, we got to get Charlie, we got to get the guy. And at the time, that's how I felt. At the time, I was like, all right, that's just part of our business. But every so often crops up like, who was this person we killed? Like what was their, like who were their family? And the region that we were bombing is like the same kind of regions that we were bombing today, even today with Trump in office. And I have a lot of pain towards this. Recently, I saw like the interview with Hassan Piker. I saw this last year, I guess. They talk about how this quote unquote Houthi pirate that he interviewed, this very I guess a beautiful guy that women love and fawn over, and they're like, oh, but he's a Houthi pirate. And like what Hassan was trying to do was trying to humanize him and say, look, this guy is like, do you watch anime? Like, how do you feel about America? And over the guy just kept saying, like, as long as you love Palestine, then I have no hate for you, right? He was a young man. And I'm thinking about this because not too long ago, like, I would look off probably in the vicinity of his neighborhood where the red glow was over the horizon from my ship, that we broke a record for staying out at sea the longest without a port visit. And while doing that, we bombed the shit out of some country. And it's like I say that now, where back then we were told like you, when you're serving your country, you don't think too much about what you're doing. You just know that if I'm not gonna do it, somebody else will, and I might as well serve my country and make sure that we're gonna keep America safe. But and I really believe that even up until after I got discharged, even when I made it back into college, and a lot of my internships ended up like DoD related, ended up government related. My research project was in asset allocation with particle swarm optimization, and that was paid for by the Navy. That was paid for by my GI Bill as well as a Navy grant for a Navy defense project. And then eventually I got hired at a basically a DoD contractor. And I'm not going to say their name. I mean, I guess you could find it, but I'm not going to say their name just because I don't want to put them on blast. Everything I did was to protect my family. Everything I did was to protect my country, the place that, like, I'm not gonna lie, like, this country has been fucking garbage to brown people, have been fucking horrible. Back when 9/11 happened, like, my life, I grew up as a poor kid. I grew up as a very humble, poor beginnings. I grew up in a all white meth neighborhood. Like, there was times where I came home and I could see the police were like raiding so another meth lab. I've had people come up to me when I was a kid, standing on the bus stop in like middle school, asking me for drugs, and I'm like, I don't sell drugs, and they're like yelling and cussing at me, saying, I know you sell, you don't want to sell to me. I'm like, God damn, get the fuck out of my face. Like, I grew up in some shit, but I always assumed I was normal. I always assumed I tried to assume I was normal, but like growing up here in Indiana is like back in the day, back in the 90s, you were either black or white. I got my ass beat every day by black people. I got my ass beat every day by white people. And my normality, what I consider to be normal, was being a alien to those around me. I've always been considered not normal. And because of that, I've learned how to just exist in the middle between groups. I've never been in a group. I'm not part of any group. When someone says, "Oh, you're a leftist," like, I'm not on the left. They'd consider me liberal. And if they're like, "Oh, you're liberal," like, I'm not in a liberal. I'm kind of more left than liberal. It's like, you try to pin me down, I'm not going to be pinned down where you think I'm at. And it's funny because my research in my PhD recently, just before I had to walk away from it, was anomaly detection. I'm like, if you're an anomaly, it's going to be easy to detect an anomaly. Sorry if I'm going on from one thing to the next. My mind kind of works like this, and I don't have a script. Let's go ahead and talk about. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about this childhood thing. So it's like, I grew up in an all white neighborhood, and because of how I was zoned, I had to go to an all black school. And in this all black school, every time I try to participate in discussions with other kids, every time I try to, have fun with them, they say, "Shut the fuck up," and punch me in the mouth. Like, that was a normal everyday thing. Just that. And eventually I was able to get out of that school when I told my mom that I wanted to kill myself. I hated this life. I hated everything about it. And she had to go down to the IPS building and try to get me into another school, which they put me into an all white school pretty much. There were no black kids. There were no brown. I was the only brown person in that school. It felt like there might have been one or two, but it felt like I was alone. And then it's like, there I was an outsider. And I remember telling the girl that I liked her, and she was so disgusted by it. Like, this is like third grade. And then they redistricted us to send me back to another all black school. And at this time, I was already traumatized from dealing with this shift from school to school to school and getting my ass beat everywhere. I ended up in the fourth grade becoming like more focused on like singing, dancing, art. And I grew up in a very heavily religious background. So very much like singing in choir and stuff like that. I can't remember as a kid if I sang in our church choir, because the church that we went to was all white, and they didn't really like having it. Like, we kind of sat off to the side. People really didn't like interacting with us, except for like the I forgot what you call it, the deacon or whatever his name is. I grew up Catholic, and that's been gone out of my system for quite some time. But like, I faced a lot of bullying as a kid. I faced a lot of inability to form a community and form people that I liked, and I like being able to talk with people that I like. I had a lot of experience with friends suddenly turning their back on me or hating me over either something I did or something someone said and made them realize they shouldn't be associating with me. So I did take to art, and I did do a lot of art. Um, One of the things I ran into as a kid though with the art is I also did Cub Scouts, and we had those at that in fourth grade. That was the first place that I had exposure to like Cub Scouts. I was in the Cub Scouts for fourth grade and fifth grade. Maybe it was just fifth grade, and we experienced something after fifth grade where I was supposed to go to some sort of Weebles thing down at the Boy Scouts, down at the actual Boy Scouts campsite, and this was supposed to be a day where they taught us like here's how to cook on a fire, here's how to make ice cream from scratch, here's how to make a birdhouse, here's some arts and crafts, all these things I really enjoyed learning to do. And it came time to where we were going to learn how to camp. And when my dad being a black man, went up and tried to get camp gear, they said, we don't have any for you. We were all out. And it's like they knew we were there, they knew we were coming, they knew like our troop was there. And that I remember distinctly, like that was a day where my dad didn't really want to deal too much with it. So he was like, come on, we'll just go. I'll take you to go. We'll go see a movie. We'll go eat or something. Let's just like, we don't have to deal with this. So he took me, and I remember that he took me to go see Armageddon. And when I saw Armageddon, like there's a sex scene. I was young, but like "Kiss from an Angel" is a song. Every time I'm stressed out, it just shows up in my head, and plays on repeat over and over, like to this day. And I remember that was the moment where I said, fuck art, I'm just going to do science now. I'm only going to do science. Because it's funny because I hear Neil deGrasse Tyson say that Armageddon was the least scientific movie he's ever seen. Meanwhile, it's the movie that inspired me to instead of do art, to go to science. And I remember that there was a day that it was like our final, we sing, we danced, and I was one of the people that everyone cheered for, dancing like fifth grade. Like it's just fifth grade. Like I could do some basic break dance moves. And I remember as soon as I got done, I was on stage, and the dance teacher was beaming over how proud she was of us. And I remember telling her like, I'm never doing this again. I'm going to quit, and I'm going to go do science now. And I don't know why like I did that. And I remember seeing her start to cry on stage. She started tearing up, and was about like looking at me like, why did you just do that? And I didn't know why it upset her at the time. I thought I was doing the right thing for some reason. Like this is me being a kid. And this is why, like, if you look, there's another video I did post where I think I had autism. And I've been trying to get screened for that, and I don't know. I don't like, people aren't being forthcoming about how this shit works. So it's like I'd been bullied and had so much trauma in my life just from other kids and not being admitted into the club. But I don't know. I needed an out, and that was my out. And I was like, let's do science. And I ended up going to like a math science middle school where I thought that once I got there, I'd be accepted among my peers of people that enjoy math, science, and stuff like that. Because I've always been like I've been horrible at reading and literature and writing. I ended up had to learn how to write in middle school and then high school, which we kind of flubbed through. And I think I'm a good like a motivational writer. Maybe I'm probably a good like persuasive writer. I'm not so. I had to learn how to become a scientific writer over the years. I'm not that much good with like writing out sound logical arguments, I guess. So I'm not that good of a writer. I went to IPS. I went to public school. It doesn't like it's not. I'm not going to be the best writer, and I struggled with it in college, honestly. So anyway, I went to middle school where it's math and science, and what ended up happening to me is I kept having people tell me to shut up, F word. I don't know if I can say it on here. They kept calling me gay over and over and over, and I was like, I'm not gay. Like, why do you keep calling me gay? And it turned into this whole thing for the whole 3 years of middle school that I was just that F word. I was just that gay guy, and I was once again an outsider. And by the time I got to high school, I'd been so mentally bruised, so mentally hurt that all I could think about was I'm going to be popular. I'm not going to be a nerd. I'm not going to be an F word. And I immediately jumped into sports. I did football. I did wrestling. I tried to do baseball, but I sucked at it. I kept trying to do sports over and over. I was hurting my body. I got slammed. I had my ribs bruised. I even got in a fight with a kid on a football field where he tackled me. Neither of us were wearing a helmet. And when he he slammed me on my head and knocked me out. And then they all were making fun of me, saying, "You weren't knocked out. You were like, I've seen people knocked out. You weren't knocked out." Like, he slammed me on my head, and my everything went black, and I woke up to people laughing at me. So after that, I had rage issues. I was punching lockers, punching the wall, yelling at people, and eventually, some point, I got kicked out for being a menace. Like, I got in one actual real, like, it wasn't even a fight. It was like an altercation, and they suspended me. And after they suspended me, they immediately, like 2 days later, they expelled me. They went and asked people and said, "Oh yeah, he's a menace," and they expelled me out of the school. Um, and I became like very depressed, very angry, very suicidal. I didn't know what was going on with me. I didn't know what was wrong. And I had a girlfriend at the time, and I was struggling dealing with things with her because she was also another person that had she definitely had mental health issues, and I'm not going to discuss her because that's her story and the things that we went through as kids at 15 or whatever. It was insane. Um, and eventually I did come back. I was able to get my record expunged and come back to high school and go to like one of the top IPS high schools where even David Letterman came from the school. But I got it back into arts and humanities basically, and was able to finish out pretty well. But by the time I like finished high school, I had the math, but I didn't have the writing capability. Like, our teacher, our literature teacher at the time, literally got knocked out by one of those cement chairs that they gave us. So some kid picked up one of these big chairs, flung it at her, hit her in the head, and knocked her out. And then we had a substitute teacher for my whole junior year that instead of like doing writing, we were doing spelling worksheets in junior high. I mean, in junior year of high school. So, and I remember writing essays in the 7th grade, and suddenly I'm in this arts and humanities school where it's like I can't, like, we're not really being taught how to write. The math was horrible. People didn't know how to teach math. I had a geometry teacher give me a D and say I'll never amount to anything. Jokes on her. I ended up acing calculus on my third run of college. So let's go ahead and jump through this whole college shit. So I went to IUPUI, which is no longer a school. There's this basically, I tried to apply to Purdue and I didn't get accepted, but they gave me access to their sister schools. It could have been IPFW up in Fort Wayne or IUPUI here in Indianapolis. So I went to IUPUI, and they didn't quite allow me into engineering. I had to work my way into it. So I had to take a bunch of remedial courses as a general education and just prove that I can get into it. I wasn't getting A's, but I was getting B's and C's enough to pass, and eventually work my way into the engineering course. But before I even got there, like my first year, my first semester, I got zero GPA. And the reason why I got zero GPA is because I kept being told by other people that, hey, you don't have to show up to every class. There's no attendance. You can skip classes. And I was like, all right, I'll do that. And I assumed I could just skip class and show up whenever I want to, and not do the homework. I didn't do any of the homework. And I was getting B's and C's doing that. But on what actually ended up happening that first semester is I didn't know how the finals semester the schedule was supposed to pan out, and I wasn't there in the class when they told us which location to show up to for finals and what time and what day. I thought it was on the same day, so I showed up to my regular scheduled class and found a whole group of people in the middle of taking a test for a whole different subject. And I was like, wait, that's not it. And then another day I showed up and there was nobody in the class. And I was like, I was so confused by it. Nobody explained it to me. And I ended up getting zero GPA. I'd missed every final. And they immediately put me on academic probation. So my first semester was my first semester was a shit fest of me trying to work at Dollar General while attending IUPUI, while trying to get through courses that I wasn't studying for, that I didn't understand how I was supposed to study. I wasn't prepared for because IPS didn't teach me this. And was on academic probation, meaning, and I was able to get my financial aid approved through an appeal, but still being on academic probation meant that if I messed it up during that period, then they take away all my financial aid. And I was there only on the Pell Grant and loans. That's all I had. Pell Grant and loans. My parents didn't have the money to pay for it. And I kind of skipped over that. So why did my parents not have the money for this? Well, first of all, I grew up in a poor household, very poor neighborhood. And my parents were working class. My mom worked at a hotel. My dad had just got out of the military himself, and he was trying to figure out how to get his footing with a job. So he was unemployed and raising us until he was able to get a job. And then at some point when he got a job, my mom had to quit. I think she was still working at a hotel, but at some point she decided to quit for a while and then take care of us. And then she ended up getting a job later on, with a teachers union, and she worked there for a while, for many years, honestly. And that's where we had our health insurance. That's where we went from like low, poor poverty to like pretty much middle class back in the 90s. So back in the 90s, we still had economic mobility. You can go from low class to middle class if you worked hard enough. And both of my parents worked. My dad ended up, I think he almost ended up like a director at one of his at the company he was at. And my mom still worked at that one job. And the day that changed was 9/11. So 9/11, 2001, you got the two planes that hit the World Trade Center. They rolled out the TV screen for us in class to watch it happen, and people were laughing and joking, saying, "Look at him jumping off the building." Other people were looking at us in horror, like, "Why y'all laughing about it?" Like, because our life sucks, and why do we got to give a fuck about this? And then I got pulled out of class because my grandmother could not be found, and I didn't know at the time, but she worked right next to the World Trade Center. And her building, they couldn't get a hold of her for hours because there's a communication blackout. And found out that she was actually walking a bridge home to Queens at the time. So my dad pulled me out of school to tell me this, but also he had put in a 2 weeks notice for his job, and he was planning to go work as I think he was gonna this is like his big break to get into another company that he had been working with for a while, for I guess they seen each other at conferences or whatever, or like there's some kind of association. He knew people there, and the place he was at now, he was a director for a division, and I think they're going to move him up higher at this next company. I don't know the full details, and I haven't really talked to my dad much about it, but his 2 weeks notice, the day that he was quitting, was 9/11. And I'm telling you, my life sounds like a fucking made up story. And I fucking wish all this shit was fake. I wish none of this was fucking real, because that was a day when like a lot of people died, but like our life fell the fuck apart because my dad had quit his job, was on his way to the other job, to the other place, found out about the World Trade Center getting hit. And when he showed up, they said, "We can't hire you right now because we don't know what's going to happen economically." And he tried to go back to the other job, and they said, "No, we can't take you back. We don't know what's going to, we've already hired someone for your position." And it's like, and he tried to get hired, and he couldn't get hired anywhere. So my fucking dad lost his whole career that day, unrelated to any of the shit that happened. And to make matters worse is, you look at me, you see my brown skin, like you don't know who I am. 9/11 was the day that all brown people became enemies to America. And me being Puerto Rican and black and white, having these mixed genes, like my genealogy is mostly like you look, they cover America for the the Native American side, the Taino side from Puerto Rico, as well as like there's this other, I don't know if it's not Cherokee, it's something else. Like I've got two different kinds of Native American in my bloodstream, but I've also got majority Britain. It's British and Iberian Peninsula as well as black. Um, I've got a mixture of genes. I am very much as American as any other motherfucker in this country. Because even the people in my community, the white people in Indiana, most of them are German that migrated here. So it's like I've been established at this country a lot longer than most people here, my genealogy wise. But 9/11 was the year that I became a terrorist. I became the enemy of the state. Every time I went to the airport, the woman would look at me, look down, and then stamp my ticket, and I'd look at it, and the stamp that she just put was a S with a circle around it. And when you take your ticket to the gate, they see that S. That means you get the special search, and that kept happening over and over. And I kept seeing. I realized the pattern, and eventually stopped stamping the S, and the searches became a bit more random. But it turned into this whole thing where I wanted to be a pilot at some point. I wanted to fly, and they gave me a major fear of flying because I was like, if I go to the airport and I get searched, like what happens? Are they gonna like what happens if I get upset? Like I was like, I don't want to deal with this anymore. And I started driving. I drove cross country for so many different things because I was like, I'm not going to fucking airport. They're gonna discriminate against me. But 9/11 is the year that my dad lost his career. He took it as a sign to start his own business, sunk a lot of money into like buying copiers and stuff, ended up in debt over it, and then never made. And during a time when he was in copying, that was when the internet was taking off. So people were switching over more to internet than copying, and paper died out. So he lost that pretty much and ended up losing his business. And he tried to sell it to another guy who I guess finagled him out of his customer base and took all of his customers. So then next thing he knows, he doesn't have his business, period. Um, 9/11 fucked this whole country up, and it definitely fucked up my life directly, not just because terrorists attacked us, but because white people turned on us. And when I look at what's going on now with Trump, I feel like it's the same thing, but worse. It's like a problem we never solved that is coming to fruition where they're kidnapping people and taking them down to El Salvador and saying, oh, we can't, it's out of our hands now, we can't get them back. Like, all right, you Nazis, like, what do you want me to do about this? How do you want me to actually think about this? So anyway, so it's like I'm dealing with all this, and that was around the time that I actually got expelled. It was 2001, 2002 is when I got expelled. So it's like I'm dealing with all this. My family's life getting turned upside down by 9/11. My getting expelled. I had a scholarship that I lost. Like so many things flipped on me, and then I end up in college, and now I'm on academic probation, and suddenly I'm I'm struggling again, and it's like I'm just nonstop struggle for until like I took one. I think it was physics 2. I got 1D, and that 1D kicked me off of financial aid, and that was back in 2008 when I knew ahead of time there's a financial crash coming. A lot of us we all knew the financial crash was coming. And this was before Obama got elected. This was because we knew we had two terms of Bush. He'd driven us through 2 to 3 wars. He kept bombing countries and kept doing all this. And I was very much angry. And I was like, I just lost my financial aid. I can't finish college. And I was trying to find employment here in Indiana, but there was no employment. I even tried to apply to like the Hummer plant where they're doing the metal aluminum thing, and I had to take a stupid IQ test for that job. Like, can I put pieces together? Like something stupid that I remember doing, and I was like, I'm not working here, and I just left. And I ended up like my cousin joined the military, and then I was like, fuck this. If he's joining, I'm joining. So I joined the Navy, And I didn't know what I was gonna do. I was like, I don't care anymore. I'm just joining. My dad kept telling me over and over, don't join. It's a mistake. He hated the military. And then my uncle, who I have an uncle who also served, kept telling me how awesome of a time he had. So it's like I kind of knew that what the military was about before I joined it, but I didn't know. Like if you've ever read David Hume, he talks about the idea of the impressions from our senses, like our mind is made up from our various experiences. It's like if you've eaten an orange only for your whole life and someone tells you, well, this is what an apple tastes like, you're going to think about it in terms of the apple, I mean, of the orange, and you won't know what the apple tastes like until you actually take a bite out of the apple. Now you have a new experience to run off of. But if someone says, okay, well, here's what a steak tastes like, now you're only thinking of apples and oranges. You have no idea what a steak tastes like, and then you won't know until you bite into that steak. And I very much experienced that with the military, where I kept being told over and over what the military was like. And I remember distinctly in high school, we had a recruiter come and talk to the class. And this was back when, like, the war, everyone was against the war. And I was very loud and vocal making fun of this poor man. Telling him, like, you guys are so stupid. How could you fucking serve? You guys are traitors to the country. And he was just taking this abuse. And he looked like he was about to start crying, but he was like, I guess he was looking at me in a way like, you don't know what you're saying. And he didn't really blame us or anything, but I remember how disgusting I felt eventually about that interact. I didn't feel disgusting at the time. I thought I was morally right. Like honestly, when I listen to a lot of the leftist people, there's one person, I don't remember her name, but I remember seeing somewhere she said that she'd kill a U.S. trooper, a U.S. soldier in a heartbeat, and she wouldn't feel anything about it. And then you got sometimes like Hassan, he'll be pro veteran at times, but he'll often say like some stuff I used to say back in 2005 ish era, where I would have been like, fuck the troops, fuck this, fuck that. And then eventually I'm joining in 2008, and I'm like coming into what I thought at the time was going to be like enemy territory. But if you've never served, one of the things you don't realize about service is that each of the branches serve as their own country, basically. These are countries that have these different bases or locations spread out across the US country, where we are in charge of our laundry, cleaning, maintenance, facilitation, logistics. Like all of this is by the US personnel. It's all of us. So whether or not you're a soldier, when you enlist or join, you could be in charge of somebody's fucking laundry. You could be in charge of the ship's laundry. You could be in charge of the base's laundry. You don't have a weapon in hand going out shooting, getting shot at. That's not how it works, you know? And part of you might be thinking, well, all right, well, you know what you're doing. Like, no, you got to understand, like, if a country were to invade us, it would be us. It would be us that are there to protect this country from being invaded. So everything we do was about gearing up and preparing ourselves to make sure we can keep America safe. We were the wall. You want to build that wall? The American military was the wall. But for many people in this world, when they hear about the American military, they probably have experienced some of the worst atrocity you've ever dealt with. They probably had their whole village bombed. They probably had their whole family killed by US weapons. And that's where I recognize the flaw. That's where I recognize that there's an issue. And that's been the issue for quite some time, way back in like Vietnam era. We as a country like to look at our soldiers and sailors and our military the way we would have looked at them during World War II. You know, you kind of look at World War II and like, oh, that's the honorable war. That's where we fought the Nazis. That's where we got rid of the concentration camps. And it's like, we didn't join the war because of the Nazis. We didn't join the war because of concentration camps. That came after the fact, my guy. Like, that's not why we fought. We fought because of economic reasons. We fought because Japan finally bombed us. And that was caused by something we actually participated in, I think a blockade of oil. So, like Henry Ford worked with the Nazis at the time. the banks here housed Nazi gold. I mean, this country did not fight World War II because we were honorable. But we often look back at it with rose colored glasses and say that was the honorable war. And I think we had a rude awakening when Vietnam came about and it was finally televised. And you had images of children running burnt and naked from napalm. Um, so the Vietnam War kind of woke up a lot of people to what's actually going on. And the Korean War, there you got, I don't know how the Korean War panned out, and I don't know too much about it. It sounds like America was really a big piece of shit for the Korean War, especially how we treated our allies. I don't know too much about it. I don't want to dig into it. But what we do know about it is that the end of the Korean War ended up with the what is it, 38th, 39th parallel, where you still got the North Korea and South Korea, and they're still at war with each other. Um, it's just a truce right now, so I don't want to get too much into that politics. I don't know much about it. All I know is I like South Korean dramas. Those are cool. The TV shows. But for myself, it's like joining in 2008. I felt like I was walking into enemy territory, and what I found out being there during the training, getting into my first base, it's like these are all my brothers and sisters. We were all family, and we were all there to make sure that we can get through things objectively, safely, and courageously, and make sure the mission got accomplished. And for like 3 years, I put that in like on the back of my head. And I think it wasn't until when I set up that radio communication and was able to actually hear what we were doing that's when it finally crossed the Rubicon. I was like, oh yeah, we're here to kill people too. And it kind of sat on my brain at the time. And when I said that I tried to off myself in the military, I think that was contributing a contributing factor to it. Is between that, being out at sea for so long. Like we were out at sea for 4 months straight, no port visit. People were losing their mind. We had a guy that tried to jump off the ship when we finally made port in Hawaii. Like there was just so much going on. People were getting kicked out, getting arrested. Like we had a guy that, this is the first time I ever heard of the term, the official term usage of digital penetration. That's when a guy shoved his finger into you know what of another guy through his uniform and left it. We're not going to get too descriptive here, but the things happened on that ship that made me like it exposed me to a lot of situations that made me understand how bad our society actually is, how bad human nature can be. And it also taught me that, I need to have a bit more leeway for people, have a bit more patience and understanding, and don't push people so hard. So by the time I was out of the military, I really didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I was trying to get a job in San Diego at the time because I wanted to stay in San Diego. It has like the most beautiful weather. The people there are awesome. The environment is just so laid back compared to like Indiana or the East Coast. Like I've always hated New York City. I've not because of it. I mean, the wake up and grind, nonstop grind is, I hate it so much. And I'd worked at my uncle's warehouse. My uncle had built up his empire there, from a truck to a warehouse to multiple warehouses. He did it all from scratch. And he taught me how to wake up at like 6 a.m., get there and work until midnight, and then go home, drink, and get up and keep doing that cycle over and over. And I ended up becoming an alcoholic over this kind of experience over and over. And I was very much an alcoholic in the Navy. And when I got out, I was even more of an alcoholic. I was drinking like a whole thing of rum every day. And I was smoking cigarettes, doing a lot of Monster Energy drinks, drinking a lot of alcohol, just trying to figure out what to do next. And eventually the VA, I got back pay for getting compensation and being in it, helped pay off my debts. And before that, I decided to go work for my uncle, worked there for like half a year before I nearly lost my damn mind doing that kind of grind set over and over. And I quit. When I got the VA back pay, I quit and I just went home. I was like, I'm coming back to Indiana. I'm gonna do nothing for the rest of my life. And when you hear about people getting like welfare and stuff like that, um, you're like, oh yeah, you give them money, they're not gonna do anything. Do you know how hard? You know how hard it is to do nothing. Um, that first couple months, I did pretty much nothing. I got sleep. I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do next because the VA's finally paid me to have this fucking weird situation set up with my mind and my anxiety and my depression. And I ended up so restless from doing nothing that I just started doing everything I could think of. I got back into working out. I got back into strength training. I got into gardening. I started learning how to grow plants. And the number one thing I did was Khan Academy. Every day I jumped on Khan Academy. I started all the way back kindergarten, time telling and numbers and stuff, and worked all the way up into college level stuff. And that's where I was exposed to learning by mastery. And I taught myself with Khan Academy, and between everything I learned in the military, everything I learned from working at my uncle's warehouse with and even at the time I started falling down like a right-wing trap of do everything yourself, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, be self-motivated. And I was very much at the time before it even came out, it was like this kind of alpha sigma grind set back in the 2010s. So I was pushing. And I was like, screw this, I'm going back to college. And within a year, I was back in college and I was still on academic probation, but they took me off of it immediately because I kept getting straight A's. I got straight A's in every class I took. I read the entire book. I did all the examples at the end of each chapter. I did when they gave you homework and they give you like 4 or 5 questions to do, I would do all 30, all 40. I would try to do all of the ones that were in the examples. I memorized it. I got 110% on a final for Calc 3, I think, like multidimensional calculus. I aced it. I got this what is this? This little guy right here, this little blue orb behind me. I got that for the most improved academically in the physics department or something like that. Like I aced physics. So I learned everything about thermodynamics, potential energy, kinetic energy. Like at the time I could do all of it. And I was mentoring other people. I was showing people how to do things correctly. And I ended up learning everything there was about coding, everything I could learn about computers. So I was a computer engineering student. So we learned all about coding. Not all about coding, all about low level coding, C, C++, assembly. So being able to program microcontrollers and processors, being able to learn how to build them. We didn't build them, but you have to learn all the basic circuitry for it. So I had to learn all these different electrical engineer circuitry terms, electronics, and I was learning all that, but at the time I was like, I just kind of want to do like, I don't know. I really went to college initially years ago after school was to learn how to make subwoofer amplifiers. Now I want you to see that I have a guitar behind me that I can't play. And to the left of me, I have a keyboard that I can barely play. I can't play classical piano. I can't play guitar, but I had a grandmother who very much was into music, and since a young age everything I did had some sort of musical association to it. And on the back of my mind, no matter what I do, was always going to be this kind of understanding of music and understanding of sound. And I really went to college because I wanted to learn how to make amplifiers, and that was like, by the time I did my second round of college, I was pretty much acing like even like a class D, acing electronics. So like a class D amplifier for subwoofers is very simple to do. You do a low pass aliasing and then you boost it with a couple MOSFETs in parallel, you're good. And it's like, all right, we can do this. And I actually did, one of the projects I did for fun was I did make a class D amplifier, and it was like, it took me a couple hours to get all the pieces together and just build it and make it work with some stuff I had laying around. and I have like a whole workbench at the time. Had a whiteboard behind me. I had everything that I needed to succeed, like all the electronics, everything. I could build any kind of component I wanted. And but I was still like, I kind of want to just do software. I'd rather just do the software side, because the hardware, it's like you break your hardware and then you have to wait to order a new piece. And I didn't really want to deal with the hardware because of that, even though I was using my GI Bill stipend as well as my VA benefits to just constantly buy. Like I even bought myself a oscilloscope, like a $2,000 oscilloscope. Like I was buying all these things, but it's like once you burn out a component, then you gotta go rebuy it basically, or because you can't fix it once you short something. So it's like you're learning all this stuff, and I had a class, I think it was sophomore year. It was like they call it a sophomore seminar, where Dr. Eberhardt, he was the head of the EC department at IUPUI for quite some time, and I guess he had retired from it, became professor emeritus, and was doing work for the Navy for optimization. And back in 1996, he invented this algorithm. He and Dr. Kennedy had invented an algorithm called particle swarm optimization. And particle swarm optimization is just a non-parametric method of optimizing some sort of fitness function, very similar to how genetic algorithms work. If you got a gene that you're going to mutate on and crossbreed with, there's a way to do it where with PSO, rather than being a bunch of genes and generations, the idea behind each epoch is it's a step in time for each particle to move. And they were trying to actually emulate the flocking of birds, and how they were, like crows specifically, and how they navigated trying to find food, avoid predators and stuff like that. And they came up with this kind of swarm idea of using particles that can communicate to each other, their greatest position, their best position, and then being able to have this kind of naive gradient descent approach that communicated to each other about where they, like, don't let each particle just do gradient descent itself. Let them also say, well, I also want you to head this way because I found a better thing that you might have found. And it's an okay search algorithm. At the time, I thought it was the greatest thing I ever heard of, because I didn't know too much about optimization at the time. So I jumped in and I was like, I want to learn this. And at the time, I was actually made it into like a grad school for networking, like network communications, because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. But when I heard him talk about, the, or undergrad project, I should say, when I heard him talk about this kind of optimization technology, I went and bought his book, I think it's called Swarm Evolution or something like that. Read the whole thing. Or it's Particle Swarm. I forgot what it's called. He's got a couple books out. I bought two of them. I read one fully. The other one I read half of. And I thought, like, this is what I want to get into. And I found the professor at my university that was actually working on one of his projects. And I ended up switching from my networks guy, who was teaching me everything. He was teaching me everything about DDoS detection and open switch technologies. And I was like, I kind of don't want to do this. I'm gonna jump over and do the PSO stuff. So I jumped over, and I was like, this is cool because it's PSO and it's also Navy related. It's Navy funded, so this is probably a way to get back in with the Navy. And what I worked on was something called asset allocation with particle swarm optimization. So where could you best place radiating antennae on a battlefield that can either radiate or jam or communicate, however way you wanted to format it. So we use particle swarm optimization to allocate where to place these things. And my task was to, one, improve the performance of the project by doing like things like multi-threading, like all this is in like C and C++, but like converting it from single thread to multi-threaded, being able to go from 2D to 3D optimization. And also what I ended up writing a thesis on was how to put the human in the loop, sort of. So I come up with a way to use like a soft maximization that gets attributed to the fitness function, and you can use a mouse click and draw an area and and I would it's like a smooth increase and decrease in the fitness function. It allows you to make sure that everything optimizes rather than for the whole pattern that you have. You can draw a scene on a battlefield and you can optimize, just stay in this area because we don't want you to go over there. And that's what my thesis was on, and it worked. It was fast. It was it could run in real time. And I was trying to get more into automation rather than just running it for one static sequence, but to have it dynamic and run over time. But I was going to do continue that as my internship at Crane, because eventually I was going to get hired at Crane and try to work on that. I wanted to do an internship there. I did one before, but I wanted to at the time when I graduated in 2018 and wrote my thesis that I was working on becoming already got accepted into IUPUI's PhD via Purdue for electrical and computer engineering, and was accepted to an internship at Crane where I could work part-time internship. They'd pay for college and everything. But I ended up getting instead a job offer for a very nice price for myself at another company that was associated with the DoD, and I ended up working there instead. And this is where things kind of fell apart for me. And when realistically, I was very much burned out by the time I got hired at this place. I could no longer work on PSO, which is what my focus was, like being very excited to work on this piece of technology and not really paying attention to where it's going, you know. There's things that I worked on at this other company that I really don't want to talk about now. I'm not even sure if I'm allowed to really talk about it, but some of it was like, I am not doing this shit. And eventually when the pandemic came, I came back home to Indiana, was able to work remote for this company. And ended up I ended up trying to go back to this school, IUPUI, under the same professor to finish my PhD, thinking that I was going to solve my burnout situation. And it didn't. It kind of made it worse. And then at some point, my mom fell, and I was like, "Dang, I guess I gotta give up something because I gotta be here for my mom." At the time she was paralyzed. She's not anymore, but she had suffered an injury, and I was like, I might have to take care of her. I don't know if she's gonna need my money or is she gonna need my time and effort. So I quit my job, my high-paying job, to get my PhD at my old school. This time, no internship, no extra money coming in, and I was like, I can make this manage. But I was still burned out. I was like, I told my professor, I was like, can I just have some time off? I asked for a year. She gave me 6 months, and I was still getting funded through the military for this PhD project where I was working on anomaly detection and artificial intelligence. So over all these years, I transitioned from like electronics, Class D amplifiers, networking, up into optimization, and then finally working my way into like actual artificial intelligence. But at first it was more like support vector machines and Gaussian mixture models, all the way into neural networks, which we don't trust neural networks. We never trusted neural networks because they break in unexpected ways, to the point that now everybody's using neural networks for everything. So I was working for Trusted AI. How can we make AI that we can trust, basically? How can we say we know how it's going to break? And that's that had been my focus since 2021, 2022, was just focusing on how to do AI in such a way that we could trust it. And I've been doing it in such a way by doing my target has been focused on computer vision recently, and anomaly detection with computer vision. So how can we do a trusted anomaly detection that relies on artificial intelligence sandwiched in the middle of it? And how can we do it in such a way that is going to be beneficial to somebody, you know? So instead of working on like electronic warfare, I wanted to try to make it as agnostic as possible and avoidant as possible from any kind of military thing. And at this time, the reason why I thought this way is because I had also interned at several different companies that I found out I eventually, like, no matter where I went, everything had something to do with the F-35, the joint strike fighter. Everywhere I went, everywhere, no matter where I went, everybody was doing joint strike fighter. And that's why I got exposed to the idea that people in the government like to negotiate these kind of big defense projects and dump all their money into it that actually funds entire cities. It funds states. And no matter where I went for engineering, everybody touched the Joint Strike Fighter. And I think in 2014, I was first exposed to some of the atrocities happening in Gaza, where they were firing rockets into Israel. And I was like, oh, why are they doing that? And I started learning a bit about it. And then I saw the bloodshed that happened after to Gaza. I was like, that's kind of one-sided there. And I didn't know too much at the time in 2014 about it, but when I found out that we were selling Joint Strike Fighters to Israel, I was like, what the fuck? No, man, I'm not working on this technology for it to be given away to a foreign country. So I kind of wanted to blacklist my own self from ever working on that kind of stuff. So I pushed myself more to just focus on the science behind things like optimization and stuff. That's where I kind of got I don't want to be an engineer. I want to be more of a scientist working on this kind of thing, which was a naive approach, but it was my approach. And even though I ended up working on this asset allocation project and then ended up working on some other things that I actually found some of the work that I did would be highly immoral. One of the ones I will talk about is like, we worked on something called emotion from voice. So can you use artificial intelligence to identify emotion in someone's voice? And the people that were paying us to do it, which I'm not going to mention, are the kind of people that were trying to build camps. And I said, I don't want to fucking do this. But I was still trying to focus on the science itself, just getting the science to work. But it's like, at the same time, in the back of my head, it's like, I kind of don't want this working. And the people that I worked with were like, we don't want this working either. And it turned into a thing that ended up failing because none of us really were motivated to get it to work, just because we didn't know if they're going to put it to use in some sort of Nazi situation, some sort of concentration camp situation. So we were very much pissed off about it at this time. I was definitely pissed off about it, but I tried my hardest to get it to work, and I kept getting. We're not going to talk too much more about that part. It's just that was a whole part of my life that kind of it made the burnout worse. I can definitely remember that was the moment where I was like, I could barely get anything I did after that. I couldn't get it to work. I couldn't really find success in any of my work after that point. So that's why I kind of I had the opportunity to come back to Indiana, talk to my professor, get back on a PhD, and work on just raw fundamental science, raw theory and ideas, and being able to pitch out, here, we're going to make a prototype over here of some sort of like a deer detection thing. It wasn't meant to be deer detection, but on my Blue Sky, I put a profile. Using images, can I get raw real-time images coming in, do anomaly detection on it using AI, and is it a trusted anomaly detection setup? That was the point. It's not the fact that I'm identifying anomalies. I want to make sure that I've created technology that I can say this is trusted AI. So that's what I worked on. But I kept getting burnt out, and at one point I got burned out and took time off, especially after my mom got injured. And by the time I came back from my burnout hiatus, which I was ready to go, I was ready to get the work done, I found out they were splitting IEPY. Mitch Daniels, piece of shit, decided that he wanted to just split up IEPY for no real fucking reason, fire the professors there and hire new ones. So they went behind this thing of, we're not getting rid of jobs, they're keeping the same number of jobs. The idea is they wanted to fire all the tenured professors and make sure they can hire better professors, and they wanted to get rid of the students and get better students. I remember someone saying that they wanted a higher caliber of student, and I fell the fuck to pieces when that happened. Meanwhile, Israel started this bullshit. Well, everyone's like, oh, it started October 7th. Like, y'all don't realize, like, even in 2014, I knew something was wrong. Even that video where I saw they were asking all the Israelis, like, hey, should we be peaceful to Palestine? And they're like, no, fuck, we need to kill them all. And that was back in 2014. I had kind of been exposed to that. And when I found out about this October 7th attack, I was like, ooh, Israel's gonna fuck up Gaza. That's what I thought. That's my thought. And yeah, it sucks. People got hurt. People got killed. Atrocities happen on a day. I agree. I understand. But what they do to the Gazans is like to the Palestinians. I was like, dude, you guys have an apartheid there. What do you want us to think about this? And then that's when I've started getting inundated by the propaganda. And all of a sudden, I'm back to being called a terrorist again. And by the Democratic Party. So originally it was Republicans calling brown-skinned people like us terrorists because we were the ones bombing the Twin Towers. And now all of a sudden, I'm a terrorist. This guy that had worked for the government all these fucking years being called a terrorist because I'm saying you guys are waging a genocide and the U.S. is supporting it and giving them weapons. And I'm being outspoken about it. And what finally did me in, what finally got me, the final nail in my coffin was they put out something where they did an expose, like they had asked several Israelis came forth, whistleblowers came forth and said, this is what we worked on. This is real technology. This is happening. And it was this report, I think it was 270 wrote. I forgot the name of the journal. They wrote about lavender and where's daddy. I'm not sure if many of you are aware of it. If you've read it, some of you probably have. When I read this article, I felt like I was reading my research on asset allocation, my 2018 thesis. Now, I talked to my professor about this, and I've talked to other people, and I personally know, like, no, my rinky-dink code, our rinky-dink code that we made, most likely is not being used for some weapon right now, right? It's not our work. But I can't get out of my head that all these years, those 3-4 years, whatever that I worked on that project, do the math, 2015 and 20, like 3 years. All that work where I kept putting in the back of my head, like it could be used for like weapons placement, but we're doing it for asset allocation, specifically for electronic warfare, for jammers. That's not going to hurt anybody. I mean, it could, but it's not like an actual weapons technology that's hurting somebody. And here I am reading an article where it's like, we're going to optimize where to maximally place the most, a bomb, so it'll impose the most terrorism on the citizens and make them move. I read this and I got sick. I nearly fucking puked. And at the time I went to my girlfriend, my fiance, I had to pick her up for we were gonna go eat. And when I was out on the sidewalk talking to her about it, because I just parked, went up to her apartment, was gonna met her out on the sidewalk. And as I'm talking and describing what I just read, my knees gave out. And I'm big. I'm like nearly 300 pounds. I'm coming down and she's like 90 pounds, trying to grab me and hold me up. And I'm just outside on the street crying on the ground over what fucking Israel did to what Israel did to Gaza with lavender and where's daddy. Like, you monsters, you fucking pieces of shit. Like, I did not fucking serve my country to kill brown people. I did not fucking do this to kill children. I don't give a shit if these guys were actually attacking you. Like, I really don't at this point. I don't give a shit what they were doing to you. I don't fucking care. You guys use technology that I worked on, ideas that I worked on, that I presented on, that I loved, and I looked at it with the idea of bringing peace and humanity and easiness and trying to make people's lives easier and helping to defend our nation. Y'all used it to pinpoint and target people to fucking kill them. I will never be okay over this. I will never be okay. And for all these fucking liberal assholes who are sitting there like, oh, if you support Gaza, you're a terrorist. Go fuck yourself. Seriously, go fuck yourself. Motherfucker, I've done more for this country than you will ever do. And you want to sit there. I've given up more than you will ever give up. And you want to call me a fucking terrorist. You want to label me that way. Bitch, fuck you. Go back to 9/11. I'm tired of this shit. Back on 9/11. Before 9/11, y'all were treating me like shit. Y'all were preventing me from camping with your kids in Boy Scouts because you're like, I can't have that fucking N-word. We're not even gonna go there. We're like, I don't want this brown piece of shit standing next to my perfect white children. Fuck you. Fuck you. Okay? And now, to this day, I'm supposed to pretend that the Democrats are the peaceful party. We know they're not. And to this day, y'all want to blame people like me. Where I'll tell you right now, I voted for Kamala Harris. I did. Okay? And you want to throw a hissy fit at us that we're trying to say, please say something about Gaza. Please distance yourself from Biden. Please do something other than standing next to him saying he's my daddy. Kamala got up there and said, Biden's my daddy. I love Biden. Biden did everything perfect. We have the best economy. We are not doing genocide. And what's going on in Israel sucks, but you know what? I'm going to keep sending weapons to Netanyahu. I want a ceasefire, but we're going to keep sending weapons. That's what Kamala said. See, what she really said is, I want a ceasefire. I want to see a two-state solution, which I don't agree with. I agree with Hassan. One-state solution. You know why? If we want a two-state solution for this particular kind of situation back during the Civil War, then then we would have a Northern Union country and a slave state, southern U.S. of Texas, Florida, all these states from Texas to Florida, all these would be included in its own country. Two-state solution, you fucking idiot. We have done it in this country to have a single state solution. And you want to get fucking upset at those of us saying we can have a single state solution in this country. Anyway, that's a rant that I swear I'm upset. I'm an angry person. Because this whole point was to discuss about the moral injury I feel. And the thing is, it's all connected. The reason why I can't work these days, the reason why when I code now, I shake. And if I do get a coding project done, I just stay in bed for the next 3 days. I barely shower. I barely get out of bed to go do anything. I'm just always upset, angry, and depressed. And after having this weird meeting today with the VA, with a group therapy thing, and not having an expected meeting with my therapist, these are some things that I talk about in my therapy. And when I find out about how Elon Musk and Doge are grabbing hold of our confidential information, you know what? I don't want them having it all. How about you guys have it? How about some of y'all have some of my discussions? Because I'm not going to let this information be ruled anymore by the US government. I'm not going to let this information be blocked out to the point that I have to keep sitting on my hands and puking and fucking shaking every time I fucking think about the genocide that we contribute to of brown people, no matter where at this point. Like, we bombed the shit out of Yemen. I was there for it. Okay? I learned my best skills while killing brown kids, being attributed to it. And now we're back here in 2025, bombing Yemen again. Bombing Yemen, bombing Gaza, bombing all these places. You motherfuckers never learn. You never learn your lesson. You never learn anything about humanity. And it angers me so fucking much. And I just want us to have a peaceful, caring society where we can at least say, hey, you are my neighbor and I do love you. I do want to make sure you have housing, you're well fed, and you've got your mental care taken care of. You've got your medicines coming in. You're able to get your surgeries and not go into drastic debt. You know, you can, every day you can show up to work wherever you want to work. You can work doing a thing you love and get paid for it and be able to afford rent and afford basic necessities. You have a place to shower peacefully and nice clean water. You have clean water to drink. The food is not like, you can eat nice, delicious food that's not going to send you into debt, that is not going to make it to the point where you got to guess on whether you're going to pay for your kids' medicine or a steak dinner. We can be a very peaceful society We are the richest country in the world. As much as they tell you over and over that we can't afford certain things, there just Elon Musk. Just look at Elon Musk. Like I calculated it out. I could be wrong. With the entire, I think there's 600 million homeless people in this country. There may be more, obviously. 600,000. What did I just say? 600,000. I think I said 600 million. There's 600,000 homeless people. I think there's a lot more than that. You can take Elon Musk's full wealth, all the wealth that he, this one individual in this country, the South African billionaire, you can take all of his money, all of his wealth, all of his assets. If you could liquidate it, if you could sell it without disrupting the markets, don't worry about that part. Let's pretend that you can just grab his wealth. Let's pretend you can pick up that brick of money and disseminate it. How would you disseminate it? You can give every homeless person in this country a median $400,000 house. You could pay off, if their debt is equivalent to the national debt of $100,000 each for each person. Each person on average is $100,000 in debt in the United States. You could pay off all their debt, and you could pay them a minimum wage job for 10 years straight, all with just Elon Musk money. He employs, I think his median employment is about $80,000 for like a small number of people. So the efficiency of just grabbing his wealth and spreading it out to our lowest level people, our homeless people, people that are struggling to make ends meet, that have crippling debt, that can barely keep food on the table because they don't even have a table to bring to begin with, that are living on people's couches or living out in the gutter or whatever, people that are fucking homeless, you know? You can take Elon Musk's wealth and give them a whole new life. Just start it over. Wipe out their debt, give them a house, a whole house. You can give them a whole fucking house. One worth more than my parents' house, the place I'm in right now. You could pay every homeless person for 10 years straight on minimum wage. All of that, all together with Elon's full net worth before he did his Nazi salute, okay? He was worth 430 billion, and now he's worth like 200 something billion. He's still one of the richest, he still is the richest man in the world. And that's just Elon Musk. You still got Zuckerberg, who started he started a girl rating site for his college. He's a pervert that started a girl rating site and then stole people's technology to create a social networking company that he pretended he's this altruistic genius, when he's really just a college dropout pervert piece of shit that is never going to be cool. You're a fucking idiot. Go fuck yourself, Zuckerberg. You got him, who has a lot of money as well. You can take his wealth. And we've already, if you take Elon's wealth, you've already solved homelessness. That's one thing done. Okay? You can take Zuckerberg and solve everybody's medical debt crisis. Okay? And you could take Bezos, rip out his company, because he's a monopoly king, rip out his company and recreate. Everyone wants to say, make it in the USA, like make America great again. You can make America great again by getting rid of Amazon. Just fuck off Amazon, and you can start off every small company, let them run their own websites, let them run their own stores, have multiple, not just Amazon. You can have a Amazon, another place like Amazon, another shopping network, kind of like, you know, eBay or something. Have all these little competing places. If we want to be liberals here, liberals like to believe in free markets. So why would a liberal ever support something like Amazon? You know, why? We could wipe out the top 3 people, just take all their wealth and disseminate it to America. We could actually do Trump's tariffs thing and survive it. But, you know, Trump's tariffs plan is actually bigger than that. It will wipe out the US and make us a third world country. Because you like to look at things like, I don't know what his tariff things, maybe he got rid of them all by now. I've heard one of them was like 145% or maybe higher for China. Who gives a shit what the math is? Because what it boils down to is that there's going to be, you're not going to get 10% increase in your prices. You're going to get 300% and more increase in your prices. We know this because all the companies have been price gouging us over the pandemic. The pandemic shut down all of our ports and got us to the point we had a backup in supply. And meanwhile, that one little hiccup with the pandemic it cost so many lives, it cost so many livelihoods, and it made people want to vote for Trump again, which is ironic. He caused it, guy. Um, and as much as like Biden tried his best to actually successfully reverse the economy, and it really wasn't much of him, it's mostly like Jerome Powell and also like Elizabeth Warren coming out and going after price gougers. Like Biden rode on the coattails of the success of others who, in one way or another, tried to fix our economy. But you can't fix a bus crash so fast, can you? I remember in sixth grade, I had an economics teacher, six or seven. I had an economics teacher or maybe social studies, who tried to explain to us like every 6 years on average, America goes to war. That's the average, every 6 years. And it may not be a full blown war, but it's going to be a conflict. And it seems to be this thing where every 6 years we're going to go to war. So it's highly likely that a lot of us in his class were going to at least experience some sort of war or bloodshed. He said that, but he also tried to explain, I think we had another teacher who tried to explain the economy is very much like a bus where you can't speed up a bus very fast. You can't make sharp turns with it. And the whole point of a president is to make sure that bus stays on route, keeps moving without crashing. And he kind of explained like a president can actually crash an economy. And we've seen that. Like you elect the president and you really don't see his economy until 4 or 5, 6 years later. So when you've got Obama in the White House trying to reverse the housing market crash, you got he gave out money to all these companies that in turn put it in the stock market and put it into people's bonuses, which did not help America whatsoever. And the housing market's crash still hurt a lot of us. But he'd spent years trying to fix it and make sure it stayed afloat. He inherited Bush's wartime economy, and Bush inherited Clinton's sending off all the jobs to China economy. And like it goes way back. Like people are inheriting people's economies, doing something to either fix it or fuck it up, and then we don't feel it until after the fact. I think Trump is the first time ever, whether it's 2018, 2019, or 2025, where things he did, we immediately felt it. So back between 2016 and 2020, Trump was manipulating the stock market by going out and saying one thing and then coming back and reversing his point and then saying, we all got rich, we're happy now. And what he meant is that the economy's great because he was making all of his friends rich with the stock market. If he says something to crash Ford and say Ford's a piece of shit, and then turn around later and say we're gonna try to get ourselves a project with Ford, someone shorted it and then bought the dip and made some profit off of that. We don't know who. But the funny thing is, this last go around where he announced the tariffs, then announced the reversal of the tariffs, he brought on stage into the Oval Office a couple of big money executives in there. I think J.P. Morgan Chase. I don't remember who, so please don't quote me on this. Don't try to say it's misinformation. Go look it up yourself. He's in there saying, y'all, look, they made a lot of money. They made a lot of money. Talking about like these guys that apparently they might have, maybe, allegedly, shorted the market on the tariffs and then did a reversal to go long on the market and make some money. These motherfuckers are making money off of Trump's mouth in office, his position of power. When Trump got elected in 2016, he didn't want to be president. I don't know how fucking clear we can be. Some of you are Gen Z. Some of you are young. You were young at the time. You don't know that Trump was facing debt. He was losing I think he lost a casino. He was like losing so much. It's my suspicion that he ran in 2015, 2016 for that election to raise money that he was going to siphon into his debt. Because I think it was like a lot of word that he was a billionaire, and I think he wasn't a billionaire. I think he was in debt and didn't have money. And he used the presidential election as a way to funnel money into his own organization. That's my assumption. I could be wrong. I don't think it's ever been proved, because he never wanted to release his tax records. Eventually, did release his taxes and found out that he was broke. We found that out. He fought tooth and nail not to release his tax, but when he got elected, he was very sad. He was not happy when he got elected. He was very sad, fragile looking, upset man. And he had to somehow make it work that he was going to be president. Y'all don't fucking... I wish y'all knew the real history of what's happening here, because Trump never wanted to actually be president back then. And there's suspicion that he ran this time because he was being investigated. He's convicted 34 felonies. He was going to be convicted on a lot more felonies until he started pressuring people to drop his case. And between him and the Heritage Foundation and Project 2025 and all the Republicans, like, he slaughtered all the Republicans to gain his position. He made Marco Rubio look stupid. He made Rick Santorum look stupid. He made Ted Cruz look stupid. He made everybody in the political party, everyone that had a chance to be the next 2016 presidential candidate, he made them all look like fools. And it turned into quickly back then that rather than having conservative politics, we were going to have this behemoth of a man just come in and wipe everybody out. And people backed him because they were like, he's rich, he's got money, he's going to fund me. And what they found out, he's got a lot of enemies that used to be friends, because I think they all found out, like, he's broke and he's got, the emperor has no clothes. He's not really the guy you think he is. But the problem is, just very much like Hitler and the Nazis, Hitler was just one guy who spoke a lot of bullshit and aroused a lot of people's interests and motivated them to hate Jewish people. Blame everything on the Jews, blame everything on minorities. And what did Trump do all 2015? He's like, it's China, it's the Mexicans, and it's like nonstop. I'm building a wall, so we need to make sure no Mexican judges are presiding over my case. That's when I first learned that Trump's big piece of shit mouth hole was a big piece of shit mouth hole. Was when, like, at first I was willing to entertain him until I read the article where he was quoted pointing out that he had a scam college, and here in Indiana, a Gary judge was trying to rule on this scam college to shut it down. And Trump said that this judge, who was Mexican American, he's an American, but he's of Mexican descent, has a conflict of interest because Trump is building a wall between the US and Mexico border, and that judge is going to be biased. Do you understand how stupid that fucking is? That's like saying the Jews can't preside over the Nuremberg trials of the Nazis because, you know, they killed the Jews and we need to make sure it's a both sides situation. Like, motherfucker. No, that's not what conflict of interest means. That's not how this works. And when I started explaining that to some of my peers, they all were like, well, I mean, that sounds reasonable. He is Mexican. I'm like, first of all, Mexican American, not even Mexican. I have friends like, oh yeah, he's Mexican. Like, he's Mexican American. Like, you think he really has allegiance to America as a US judge? This was back in 2015. It's like, I gotta fucking relitigate this over and over. That was 10 years ago. 10 years ago, this fucking story. And that was my key where I said, Trump's a piece of shit. No, don't elect him. And everywhere I go, I have to keep telling people he's pretending to be like Hitler. If you read Hitler, watch documentaries, read a little bit, understand Hitler. Hitler was not a genius. He was not a great man. He just motivated people. Okay? He had no fucking plans. There's a whole fucking movie called The Downfall, I think, where they poke fun at how he's sitting there in Germany, in Berlin, I think, while the Allies, Russia's coming in, they're bombing Berlin. And he keeps telling people, no, we're going to move our troops over here. And everyone's like, they're dead. that unit is wiped out. It doesn't fucking exist anymore. He's like, well, execute them. We're gonna get the other ones. And it's like, dude, everyone's like, he's out of his mind. He doesn't know what he's talking about. And then what ended up, you guys heard of Jonestown, of people drinking the Kool-Aid. Like, the idea of where drank the Kool-Aid came from, where they drank the Kool-Aid to kill themselves, and it was a tragedy, and so many people ended their lives for this cult leader. And the end of Hitler was all of his cult followers took cyanide or shot themselves in the head and took the easy way out, while a lot of the people that were just riding his coattails to have power escaped through underground railroads to like Argentina and these other places. A lot of scientists got siphoned out to America, which we're not going to go into that right now. But like it was a death cult. Nazis were a death cult, and people killed themselves in the end when it was time to go. And when you look at the equivalence between Nazi Germany versus MAGA America, it's the same thing. I had a neighbor who I tried it like before the election. I was like, I don't trust Trump because he's doing everything that Hitler's doing. And the guy was like, no, stop right there. No. I don't want to hear none of that shit. He's not like there's two different things. I was like, all right, dude, whatever you think, my guy. Like, I'm the PhD guy here that's studying, that's been able to get straight A's in a lot of things that I've done. And I'm trying to sit here and tell you that when I've learned about Hitler and Nazi Germany and said, hey, these are the same thing, they're equivalent. They're not similar. They're not questionably similar. It's the same fucking thing. It's the same move, same rules, same logic. Like, study it. It's the same fucking thing. It's almost identical, perfectly the same. There is a tautology on equivalence here between Hitler Germany and MAGA America. There's a tautology, my guy. They blame a minority for all your problems when the economic concerns had nothing to do with the fucking minority. Germany's issues back when Hitler was bitching what had to do more with losing World War I and owing a debt that caused so many youthful people to be out of a job that they spent all their time in these beer houses and listened to their crazy uncle rant on a soapbox about how great Hitler was and how much the Jews sucked all the money out of the economy. That's how that started. And what happened here in America? We had Iraq-Afghanistan war, drove all the money out. We had housing economy crash because in the 70s, someone tried to pretend that housing wasn't a necessity, but it was an asset that can be flipped and it will always grow and it will never fail until it failed in 2008. Movies were made out of this shit. People made money off of its loss. And my own mother lost her job in the 2008 crash. I joined the military to avoid because I couldn't get hired. There was nobody fucking hiring in 2008. There were no fucking jobs, okay? My guy, the economy was fucking shit. And Obama took over and made it better. But for years, South Park made episodes about they took our jobs. That's where it came from, fucking people cracking fun at the fucking people in the beer house complaining about the damn Jews taking everything. Okay, here in America, they said all the brown people were taking all the jobs, all the Mexicans at the time. And then they got educated and said, oh, you know what? Maybe they're South American. Maybe they're from Argentina. Maybe they're from El Salvador. Maybe they're from these violent Southern gangs that we keep watching on Netflix over and over about how bad the South Americans are. We keep watching things like Breaking Bad. We keep watching The Apprentice, where we got this genius guy that's firing everybody. And then we've got Game of Thrones, where they've got everyone in power is politically corrupt and we're just killing each other left and right. And for some reason in 2025, it feels like you take every single popular TV series and movie, put them together in one package and call it the US government, call it MAGA. That's what it feels like. Everybody that just spent their time not working, not studying, not becoming smart or better people, that spent most of their time sitting at home watching TV, suddenly said, oh, it's the Mexicans' fault. And you know what? Trump rode on that. He rode on that success and got you all thinking, they're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs. It's like, it works for you. Because you look at people like me, you look at us like enemies. You've always looked at us like enemies, and 9/11 made that obvious. You looked at us and said that you fucking hate us brown people, you want us out. And if I have to sit there and show you my genealogy report card, I have to prove to you I'm more American than you. That's just the rule. You came here, your family came from Germany, motherfucker. You were probably escaping the fucking Holocaust. You were probably escaping because maybe you thought the war was being lost and you came here to America to escape it and start anew with your Nazi family who suddenly are joining hands with KKK and saying, yeah, we kind of agree with you. We got to get rid of all these dark people. Like, go fuck yourself. You're not American. You're not a true American. You're not a patriot. And as much as I sit here and talk about this, I'm a veteran. I served my country, even though it was momentary. And then I spent most of my time working for the government, just trying to contribute to the mission of defending the US. And in the end, I get slapped by my allies. I get slapped by my peers. I get exposed to people that I would agree with normally, like, hey, Gaza's a genocide, but at the same time, these people would probably fucking kill me if they knew what I actually did for a living and what kind of projects I participated in. So it's like I'm kind of putting myself out there right now by putting up a fucking video like this. And that's probably the main reason why I haven't really talked too much about it. I mean, is the US going to come after me? Is it going to be some sort of Israeli lunatic? Is it going to be some left-wing lunatic? Is it going to be a right-wing lunatic? Or, I don't know, maybe nothing happens. Maybe nobody fucking watches this video. No one gives a shit. And I don't know what I'm going to personally do anymore. I'm trying to make music. I'm trying to keep coding, even though it makes me shake. I'm trying to keep learning. I really still want to work on AI, but right now, AI is taking everybody's jobs. It's stealing people's IP. And I'm working on music. I suck at music, but I'm trying to work on it. But at the same time, it's like, what's the point of me making the music if it's either one, going to be used to train somebody's music algorithm, or two, someone else is just going to make better music with the AI. Like when I try to make music for fun, my family's like jumping on like these AI music making things and quickly making up something way better than I ever did in like seconds. And then that's their fun. It's like I could have made a fun project with them for that, but they instead rely on the AI to do it instead. And I could only imagine like people that actually are professionally trained, have been doing this for decades, who can play the piano, play the guitar, who know people in the music industry, and they're still fighting to just eat. It don't make sense, y'all. It don't make sense. And the only sense it does make is that the billionaires have been trying to pit us against each other for years. When I point out that Elon Musk's wealth could feed all the homeless population, house them, start them over from scratch. Like I try to talk to my dad about this. He's like, I've worked with the homeless. They don't want a house to stay in. I was like, and I'm just like, I don't want to have too much of a deep conversation with them about it because I'm afraid where it's going to go. Because if you truly believe that homeless people don't want a place to stay, there's a lot to say about that. Because first of all, they're probably having mental health issues anyway. Okay. They're probably worried it's going to be conditioned on staying off drugs. It's probably going to be conditioned on showing up somewhere and showering. And me, I'm not on drugs. I'm not on drugs at all. And I'm on medication. But I'm not on Xanax. I'm not on Percocets. I'm not on any kind of pain pills. I'm not on, I don't smoke weed. I don't drink alcohol. I don't even do nicotine anymore. I'm giving up caffeine slowly. And you know what? I barely shower every day. I barely get out of bed. And if I didn't have my parents here to give me a place to stay, I'd be homeless. Okay. To be honest, I would be homeless right now. I'd be on the street. And if someone told me, you need to show up at this time every day, kind of like what just happened with this orientation I just took for the VA, where they're like, if you miss an appointment, we're going to kick you out of it. I'm like, dude, I'm not going to do this program. Are you serious, dude? I'm going to just stick with my regular therapist. And you're talking about as a temporary thing. It's not even going to be a permanent thing. It's all, what's the term that people use for it? Man, I forgot it. Everyone likes to use a specific term because it's where this whole idea of DEI is useless. it comes from some level. It kind of is, but not really. It DEI helps, and we noticed that when they got rid of DEI, all the planes fell out of the sky. So it's like, you want to tell me that DEI doesn't work? It obviously does work to a certain extent. Um, I don't want to get too much in that discussion right now. DEI, not agreeing with DEI is more of like a racist situation. It's more like you hate brown people. That's when you're like, I don't want DEI. You're just exposing that you're fucking racist. And I kind of want to be careful there saying that, because like I said, I grew up in a white neighborhood, all white neighborhood. I have a friend from that all white neighborhood who I'd consider my best friend, and I understand that he would look at DEI and say, I saw someone like me personally, I succeeded off of DEI, whereas he is still like, he's got back issues. He struggled all his life to keep good work. He doesn't have a lot of money situate. Like, it's, he could probably look at me and say I'm like, DEI sucks. So rather than like agreeing and saying that we need more DEI, he's like, where's my fucking help? I need help and no one's helping me. Yeah, I fucking agree. There's the word, virtue signaling. Virtue signaling. Because DEI definitely can be a virtue signaling type of thing. But even like the whole VA PTSD treatment thing, it feels like a big giant virtual signaling scheme. We're like, hey, we tried to help the veterans, but you know what? They just can't get right, and maybe we need to cut funding here. And it's like, I doubt the people running the program believe that, but I can definitely tell that people at the higher up probably believe that. If they're willing to put restrictions to say that it can only go for 12 months, why? Not 12 weeks. Not even 12 months. It's meet every week and it only goes for 12 weeks. So somebody made a decision that it's not, you can't go on for the rest of your life getting this treatment. You can only get a short-term treatment and maybe get referred to come back to it. But you know what? You might be wasting the time of us coming and getting this free therapy. So maybe we got to limit some of these fucking moochers off the sit. Like, that's the problem right there. If moocher is in your vocabulary, you've already fucked up. Because that means when you start calling people moochers and leeches and welfare queens, you know who the biggest welfare queen is right now? General Electric, Ford, these big companies that take big bailouts from the government that's supposed to like trickle down to the citizen, and then they go and move their manufacturing to Mexico and not pay taxes. Like, these big giant companies that are getting government contracts. You know who's the biggest welfare recipient right now? It's Indiana, who is got so much money for all these contractors to work on the Joint Strike Fighter program for a plane, a military asset that can't fly in the rain. Fuck you, you welfare queen piece of shit. I swear to God, like, that can't fly. The plane can't fly. It can, I guess. That can't fly. That can't fly as a society in a way that, what is it? Madam Secretary, I think, was the series where it was like they're doing kind of like a comedy skit off of the first female president. And I don't know if it was based off of Hillary Clinton or not, but in one of the scenes, I think it was that show where they try to get rid of a submarine program because it was like a big bloat. It was like a big, I forgot what they called it, like a big bloatware project that was sucking away money that many of the generals said, we don't need this. And then what ended up happening is a bunch of these old crusty senators came up to the character and said, we're going to go bankrupt if you close this. Like, this entire city will disappear. And they were crying about it, saying, we need the money. And that's the reality. That is the reality. If you got rid of the Joint Strike Fighter program, then you can't use it as a reason to funnel money into these contractors. These big giant contractors that will take $2 million to hire a guy to sit in a room to think about a problem and not do work. He just reads papers. Well, reading papers is work. But they'll read papers and come up with some sort of conclusion and write a report, and that costed them $2 million to do, okay? It doesn't matter if the report's true or not. It doesn't matter if it's validated. It's just the fact that they flooded money into it, and that's where they had to put that vehicle at that time, park that money into something. And it's a giant mismanaged audit failing system. And when they cry and bitch and moan about veterans and Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid, and they call them welfare queens, if you try to get on unemployment and they do background investigations of whether or not you're playing video games all day or not, you got to know that there's people making probably 250,000 a year playing video games in their office on government funding grants, which I've seen that. So fuck y'all if y'all think that people on the bottom rung who work every day of their life just trying to make rent, trying to make sure their kids are safe in a safe neighborhood, and they can't because they can't afford to go to a safer neighborhood because the taxes are too high or the housing prices are too high, so they're stuck in the hood and they're trying to live off of their measly wages as well as government assistance, and then you kick them off of it because maybe they tested positive for weed, maybe they have someone gets arrested in their family, and like there's so much shit that happens to the lower rung people that many people that have like the, I don't know what was the privilege to sit around on YouTube all day and while they're at work to stare at and just get motivated even more to go vote for Trump and whatnot. Like, y'all are missing the goddamn forest. The forest is right in front of you. Get out of the weeds. Get out of the trees. Motherfucker, lift yourself up. Lift yourself up out of this nonsense. The problem is not that black or brown person on the subway sitting next to you that you're like, is this guy gonna blow me up? That's not the problem. That's not the problem. The problem is not that person trying to purchase Cheetos with food stamps, which I can't remember all the rules, but you know what? You hear about, like, you got a guy that can't even purchase hot food with their welfare stamp, with their welfare money. Like, they can't even purchase hot food with their money. And you want to bitch at them about having the luxury. Oh, they get government handouts. Like, motherfucker, the company you work for gets government handouts. Nothing in this country is actually free market economics. Nothing. And when I was in the AMC and GME movement, we try to fucking yell at the top of our lungs at how much corruption is in the stock market. And the people that would be on our side are instead saying, yeah, we know, who cares? Like, we're not going to fix it there. Like, all right, we tried, we can't fix it there. So where are we going to fix it? And half of the people in the movement turned around and voted for Trump. Missing the forest for the whole, just missing it. Like, I'm staring at these weeds and I hate these brown people. I really hate them so much. They need to go to El Salvador. It's like, what are you talking about, my guy? I don't know, clip that out of context if you want. But seriously, like, I've been looking at satellite images of this El Salvador prison, and there's like one of them looks like a pile of bodies, which I can't tell or not. And then another area looks like literal mass grave sites being dug. And I've been talking to a guy on Blue Sky about it. He's showing his, I don't know who this guy is, if he actually does have a background in forensics on satellite images for stuff like that. But I mean, my dumb ass is staring at it like, hey, that looks like a pile of dead bodies. That looks like a grave site. And what the fuck? Why are all these images shown out of order on Google Earth? Like, there's like, one day you can see they were showing images of when the area was being constructed, and one day the building has the roof half on, then a couple days later the roof is off, and then the next day there's a full roof on it. So it's like, what happened there? Is it out of order? Did they really take the roof off? Like, somebody's manipulating Google Earth, or somebody's, I don't know, doing weird shit with a construction site by taking off a big ass metal roof off a place that can hold like tens of thousands of people. Come on, man. You gotta be real about this. This is insanity. Maybe they did take the roof off, maybe not. But that big burial site looking place is the one thing that's discouraging me about the whole thing. And you can go, I don't know if they're gonna, maybe I'll show the video later. If Google Earth takes it off, I'm gonna definitely post it somewhere, the video that I made of everything that I looked at. I made like 3-4 different videos. I don't know, they're cursing and long, and I might have to edit it down. But I've got videos and screenshots of Google Earth over El Salvador CCOP prison that shows what looks like mass grave sites as well as a pile of dead bodies. I would very much love I would fucking love to be wrong about this. I would absolutely love it. But all I have is Google Earth, and that Google Earth only gives you so much resolution. And I know people in the military that, you know, if you watch this video, if you're watching this video and you have access, go look at it. Okay, go take a peek. I know you have the power to, so maybe look at it. You don't have to tell anybody anything. At least look at it. Maybe talk with your manager, maybe some of your peers, and say, I saw this. You know, just, you know, get the buzz going. Talk, please. A lot of us are concerned with what we can do these days. What can we do to actually survive a fascist dictator taking over? And I will tell you right now, the only thing that I've found comfort in is showing up to protest. I know everyone's like, George Soros is paying for all this. Like, all right, I'd like to get paid to show up to a protest, motherfucker. It would definitely help me if I got an extra $200 right now. I'd appreciate it. I would definitely, yeah, because I can't fucking work. I can't show up to things on time. I wake up at 4 p.m. People are like, oh, you're probably a bot or something because you're on a weird Russian time zone. Like, motherfucker, I am most days not making it out of bed. So fuck off. But showing up to these protests, I went to one of the hands off, we call it hands off, but it's like 50-51, move on, and the other one is trying to take credit for it. But it was like some random guy just said, why don't we all just meet? And then here in Indiana, it's been one veteran that got everyone together, that signed his name on a document for meeting up. And I don't think he's associated with Move On, but now I think he would be by now. But like just grassroots, purely grassroots, people got together. My first one I showed up to, there was an old guy who voted for Trump both times. And when he finally had his eyes open, I don't want to offend him if he watches this. Very loving man. I am angry at Trump supporters. Very angry, but I understand them. Okay. I'm not going to anybody that wants to say fuck Trump today. Okay. Welcome to the fucking team. I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm not gonna be mean to you. A lot of people probably will. I'm not one of them. And I had a very grown-up conversation with this man while we were marching, and he was very scared for his trans daughter who recently came out trans. And when he finally was awakened to what Trump was doing, putting it down on paper, he didn't really say too much, but you know, like banning trans out of the military, like it woke him up. It dawned on him, like, my trans daughter could face violence. I can't have this happen to my family. And that's real. That is a real thing. We are all in this country in one way or another, Americans as well as immigrants. Even Native Americans immigrated to this country. Everybody immigrated to the Americas. Everybody at some point. We didn't have closed borders until they tried to kill all these Chinese people in San Francisco. They were mad about Irish immigrants were mad about Chinese immigrants taking all the labor jobs. And it sparked wars, it sparked massacres, it sparked fighting. Immigrants bitching about which immigrants deserve what more. And white people being told over and over, like, you are the in group. And I want to be as openly clear as possible right now to most of the white people in this country. You are not the fucking in group, bro. You need about, your salary should be about $3 million a year or more, if even, to be considered in group. Okay, if you're making 100K a year, you're pretty privileged. You're like almost middle. You are almost middle class. You can almost buy a place. And in the next few years, that 275K or whatever barrier to middle class is going to be a bit higher because of the cost of inflation rising, the tariffs. It might turn into middle class will be 3 million a year. Like, we don't know yet right now. You are not the fucking in group, okay? You are the majority. Don't get that wrong. Don't get that twisted. And you definitely have power to make sure that brown people and black people and maybe even women and trans people and gay people, you have that power as a white person, as white people, I guess. to impose your racial harm on another person. Um, but I want you to understand something. You're not the in group. The in group are the billionaires. Okay, the minority are the in group. The people that are privy, that have the power. Someone pointed out, and it's very visual, the effect of I want you to go watch Django Unchained or watch Life, the movie. Watch some of these old slave movies. I don't care if you believe in slavery or not, but I like it happened. Don't even get me started on this. But like you can go read if you think the Civil War wasn't fought over slavery, you can read Texas and some of the other southern states. Read their secession papers. They tell you specifically that they did fight for slavery. They say it in their documents, old ass documents telling you all about it. But go watch these old time slave movies. And what always sparks my mind about when white people are racist is imagine a poor white person who's never had much, barely has anything to their name. And then suddenly somebody with money shows up and hands them a gun and deputizes them and says, you're now in control of this domain right here. This little area, you keep these black people in this area. Now they're part of they're in group, right? They're in it. But you know what? They're not getting invited to all the dinner parties. They're not in there eating steak and lobster with all the rich guys. They're getting a little bit of change thrown their way, and they feel they got a gun and they got a little bit of power, but they're not the in group, okay? And you may think like they're a small amount of the population, but in reality, they are the population. The population of people that come in wearing suits or maybe even khakis and a shirt, show up as a manager, and they've got a little bit of power, and they can tell a black person what to do, what not to do. And you might think, oh, that's crazy. They're not doing that. 2021, 2020, George Floyd protests that were happening. I can't remember what year, 2019 maybe. We got called in. Everyone got called in. At our company, our CEO was trying to talk to black and brown and try to have an understanding. And they painted it squarely to us. They said, this company cannot keep black people working here, and we don't know why. We try to go to the historically black HBCUs, colleges and universities, try to target those kind of, and we get people hired, but they don't stay long, and we just don't understand why. And I think one of the things I try to point out is like, there's someone here that I had a conversation with that tried to tell me that the Civil War wasn't fought over slavery. And I was hoping that we would all at least understand history here, but it's like even people that I would look at as my peers and my friends are telling me that they don't believe slavery was a thing. Talking to me for a long time about indentured servitude, and I had to tell them, your indentured servants weren't put in chains and whipped and beaten and killed. And I worked in, my code was optimization, very closely related to genetic algorithms. And if you have any, I think there's a big issue with the cutoff between understanding evolution versus like someone created everything that we're here for. And I used to be religious, but I'm not anymore. But if you create a society where every person in the society must be able to work a field, you're going to make sure they're big, strong. You don't want them running. You don't want them running away. And it's okay if they take breaks here and there, but we need to make sure they're working. And a lot of people, when they get to their 40s, they're going to break down anyway. So we might have to sell them off or something, get rid of them. And we definitely don't want people that's going to speak out. Anyone that speaks out or makes me feel stupid, we're going to kill them. Okay. And while we're doing all this, if they try to get married, we're going to sell off their children, sell their wives, try to keep it separate. We don't want them congregating too much. That's slavery. That's chattel slavery that happened here in America. And to this day, you've got the stereotypes of black father not being around, of the ignorant black man, whatever you want to fucking do, the big, strong, scary black guy, black people living a lot less long, shorter lifespans than white people. A lot of that comes down through genetic selection by chattel slavery. Okay, we have a different, like, I don't want to get too much in the weeds with this because I may be wrong, but I think I have an understanding that American blacks have a different genealogy than Africans. Like our shape, our brains, how we digest things, how our cholesterol works is different than like people from Africa just because of chattel slavery. So people in my family will die in their 40s, which I'm 40 now, so it's something I have to think about. Black men in my family die in their 40s without a lot of medication versus like a white guy being on an all meat diet can eat all the cholesterol he wants and not gain weight. It's like there's a genetic distinction because of genetic selection, because of how our family, my ancestry was treated in this country. And that's why it baffles me when I look at the black community and they're like, you're not black. I'm like, I have my great 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 grandfather's freedom papers and I have the cholesterol of a black man. So I'm pretty fucking sure that I'm black. Okay. I'm black. I'm Puerto Rican. I'm Native American. I'm German. I'm Spanish. I'm Spain. I'm African. It's all in my bloodstream. Okay. And the one marker that's also there is chattel slavery. And when I'm at a company trying to have professional conversations at work and then going out and hanging out after drinks and talking to someone who tells me that slavery wasn't real or a real problem, and this is a person that I think of as being smart and educated, and I respect that person and I don't want to put them on blast ever, but having that person tell me that, and then also having a CEO asking me like, why are black people not staying here? I'm like, that's kind of it, right? The culture you fostered here, the one of the things that I was told when I was asking, like, they wanted me to help with hiring people, and one of my coworkers told me, he's like, I've done many of these hirings, and what I try to do when I'm looking to hire somebody is I try to imagine somebody else that I work with and try to put them on that scale. Like, are they like this guy or that guy? Which, that feeds into like David Hume impressionism. You don't really know someone unless you don't really know something unless you can, make it up with your impressions. And what he's describing to me is this idea of impressions, of understanding the people he's worked with in the past and who would he liken this to. And I try to explain to him, I was like, that kind of sounds racist. And in your head, you probably don't really get that that's actually a racist idea. But if you're at a company that only hires mostly white people, the most successful people there are white, and all the black people tend to quit, get stressed out, burned out, or whatever, you might have it in your head that black people are stupid, dumb, can't handle stress. And you may not be able to understand the concept of microaggressions and how certain things don't, like certain cultural behaviors clash, right? And to you, you might be having the benefit of the doubt, being like, well, we don't want that kind of clash happening here in our company. Yeah, and that's called racial discrimination. Okay. If you're trying to always look around you and say, this guy that I want to hire, is he like this person or this person? Well, if all you've got are white people to look at, then how do you know if this guy, this Hispanic guy or this Indian guy or this black guy have the same characteristics or cultural upbringing as those around you you're judging them by? Maybe they're going to bring some sort of, think about it, diversity to the discussion that will benefit your company in the long run. When they come to you and ask, why can't we keep black people here? Let me offer you some insight. And I'll cap it here. The one thing that I've recognized, the biggest bias that we all face, including myself, and it's not racial bias, it's not anything like that. It's actually something called survivorship bias. And I like to bring it up all the time because I think people miss that. And survivorship bias is this concept that, like, let's say you want to know how to succeed at a particular company, and you instead you try to go around and ask everybody at the company, all the people that are successful, like, what did you do, what did you do, and they all tell you, I have this specific diet, I woke up at this certain time, I made it to work at this certain time. And it's like, I focused on this and I didn't say this and I didn't, like, they tell you everything, and you build up your mental artificial intelligent model, your fitness function in your brain on what it means to survive. And then you do that, and then you get fired. And you're like, why did I get fired? I did everything right. And it's because you didn't pay attention to those that got fired. You didn't pay attention to those that quit, that had burnouts and mental breakdowns. You didn't go and ask them, why didn't you succeed? And what you might find is they're going to say, well, I woke up at this time. Same thing as a successful guy. I woke up at this time. Same thing as this other person. I showed up at this time. Same thing as this other person. Like, I had this, I talked about this, I did this. They tell you the same rules, and you'll find when you do the survivorship bias comparison, the one distinguishing factor that might have made you succeed. And I don't know what it is. I can't tell you. This is just a hypothetical idea. But the concept behind it is that when you ignore the things, if you, like, it's kind of like how I've always been against like social media's like button situation. You've got Reddit that has like, dislike. They've kept it going this whole time. And, you know, Reddit has their issues, whatever. But Facebook always had a like button. They never had a dislike button. So one thing I wanted from Facebook is when someone posts something, they should have a like and a dislike. And instead of coming out with a dislike, they came out with 5 reactions, the happy, small, whatever. And it got to the point where you had to insinuate what people meant when they pressed one of the other reactions. Like, they thought that would be better. It's things like Netflix, where they used to have a 5-star rating system, and they got rid of it for the thumbs up and thumbs down. And then it was like 3 rating system eventually, with thumbs up, super thumbs up, and thumbs down or whatever. But when you don't pay attention to one side of an argument because you are so biased to wanting to always do the right thing, you may miss the forest for the weeds. You may over optimize, hyper tune to a particular thing. And everything you thought that was true turns out to not be true. It's just your bias speaking. And then when you do actually turn around and do causal inferencing, you know what causal inferencing is? So the idea of something being causal versus correlated, okay? You might be watching my video saying, you got a lot of correlations. I'm like, all right, cool. You also do too, especially if you're doing survivorship bias. Because in this instance, causal is trying to say this particular function will lead to this other function, at least with some probability. It's like, let's say you've got a piece of cheese on a beach during a hot sun, and every time you see the slice of cheese laying out on the sand, you're gonna say, oh, the sand melts cheese. It's like every time you see it, you're like, every time, like whenever we see cheese on sand, it melts it. And then you go to somewhere like England and you put cheese on a beach and you're like, why is it not melting? It's supposed to melt. Because the causal relation was the sun heating up the sand, making the cheese melt. Take away the sun, take away the heat source from that situation, and now the cheese is not going to melt. Okay, that's causal, a causal relation. When you build up an inference model in your brain, your inference is, given my environment, what I'm taking in, what am I going to do basically? What's my next stage? What's my prediction? And you're going to infer what to do next. If you have a false causal relation in your brain and it's actually a correlation and not causation, then what ends up happening is it doesn't fucking work. Okay, it doesn't work. So that's why a lot of people question medicine, because there's a lot of medicine that actually, they do studies and they can find causal relations, but there's still some things that tend to be like a lot of correlation, and they don't have too much understanding, simply because they can't like grab a person and pick apart their brain immediately. Like, there has to be a whole thing. So sometimes you want to treat the symptoms and not the actual thing. You know, we're going to treat the symptoms and see how it pans out and see if it fixes it. And it could be something like, oh, we find out like I don't want to say something because it'll be misinformation no matter what I say. So I'm not going to go too far with that. But when we have this concept of, we're not going to go around and ask the people that are being hurt, that are being harmed, like, are you on the side of the genocide of this when you only ask like the perpetrators of the genocide, are you committing a genocide? And they say, no, we're not. And why don't you dare to tell us we are? Then you come out on the media and saying, it's not a genocide. I don't know why you guys are blown out of proportion. Like, hey, did you ask one of them? Like, no, those are terrorists. We're killing them. It's like, fuck you, dude. Seriously. But anyway, I've said a lot of fuck yous in this video. Question is whether or not I'm going to release this one too. I've made so many videos like this, very much therapeutic, helped me get my head up, get the things out so I can talk about them. And I don't know, I might say personal things that offend people. Maybe some people should be offended, and maybe a lot of people are going to read into this and be offended and not understand why they're offended. And I don't know, think about it, let it sit. I don't mean to offend anybody, okay? I don't mean to cause harm or pain to anybody. My whole point of my existence right now is to make sure that I'm just like the Boy Scout idea. We're going to leave the campsite cleaner than how we found it. You show up, pick up the trash in front of you and throw it out. Because there's a lot of people out here that just throw trash out the window like the assholes driving by my house every day, throwing full bags of trash out into my yard, which I'm not going to touch that. We're not touching that either. We're leaving that alone. Don't be the guy throwing trash out the window. Be the person picking up the trash and throwing it in the right reciprocal. Recycle it if you need to, burn it, whatever. Leave this world better than how you found it, okay? Don't hate brown people over things. It's not their problem. And if you're having major societal problems, then please come out to the protest with us. There's one happening tomorrow, or is it tomorrow? I don't know my dates. Let me check the date. Yeah, it is tomorrow. There's a protest happening tomorrow. Show up to your state capital. Go do the protest. Tomorrow is the 1st of May 1st. There's also one Saturday, I think, on the 3rd. Show up to your capital. Write something on a sign. If you're a Trump voter and you're pissed off about the tariffs, then show up and say, fuck the tariffs. Show up. I would say show up and look at each other as community. I'm looking because my coffee's been sitting there and cat hair fell into it. Don't matter. Please show up. Please show up to these protests. Don't counter protest. I mean, you can if you want. I had advised not to, because the protests I've been going to have had thousands of people now. We're all mixed. I was at a protest where I saw a Jewish Voice for Peace speaker talk about how her understanding of Israel all her life turned out to be flawed. And now she's anti-Zionist and anti-genocide. And she got a cheer here in Indiana, thousands of people. And when you've been dealing with this for the past 2 years of being called a terrorist online, despite being a government employee, despite being a government worker and working for the government for the past decade, being called suddenly a terrorist that is a naive child who doesn't know much about anything in life, and you see me drown in this song like, fuck you. And you finally get out around real people who have the same opinion as you on this particular subject, and you start saying, oh, it's just fucking bots on the internet telling me that genocide's okay. Got it. That's where you start understanding. And when you're able to get out and talk to real people, talk to your boss, well, be careful with your boss, talk to your peers, be careful with your peers. They might not believe in slavery. Talk to somebody, just talk, and don't like have charity, be charitable. Everyone's going to be different. And one of these days, I'm going to release the video that I want to do on this idea of infinite dimensionality in a latent space. We're not going to touch on that right now because that's a very complex subject that will, I don't know, some people will think it's crazy. A lot of people that work in AI will be like, yeah, that's kind of how this shit works. So be charitable. Everyone has a different, unique idea and perspective. You're not in their shoes. You don't know. Everybody's a little bit of a data point in understanding what our objective reality actually is. And when we are supposed to be living together as a society, we need to be paying attention to each other and saying, what do you need, sir? What do you need, ma'am? What do you need, person? What do you actually need to survive right now? Because we are here to help each other, all right? If you broke your arm, we're not going to leave you abandoned in the desert because we need to hurry up and go hunt that next lion down or whatever. We're going to treat your wounds. We're going to carry you. We're going to help you. We're going to bring you that extra leg of the way that you need to get to. We're going to help you come with us to our next destination, because we are a society of human beings. No matter what our nationality, no matter what color our skin, no matter what religion, we're going to get together and we're going to feed each other. We're going to house each other. And if you're feeling sad, we're going to comfort each other. We're going to make sure you are a human in our society, a fellow person who has feelings, who has beliefs. And I won't agree with them all. I'm not. I can't lie to you and say I agree with everything you're saying. I know you're not going to agree with most things I'm saying to myself. I'm okay with that. We're okay with that. We're okay not accepting everything, because we have our First Amendment, freedom of speech. And we have a Second Amendment to, be able to arm ourselves. And we are really, 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 really hoping that we don't need that. Many of us are trying to argue we should get rid of that. And then here I am myself watching people that look like me getting brown bagged and sent to what I would call now a death camp. And I'm like, I need to get one. I need to go arm myself. And meanwhile, I'm part of a system that keeps telling me someone like me should not have one. And I will have to tell you back, Second Amendment, go fuck yourself. Because at this point, people are not treating each other as equal. People are not treating each other as human beings that deserve to participate in a society. And as a person that has always been an outsider to the society, I must advise to each and every one of you, please accept each other. Please stop your fucking shenanigans. Because if you really did have the ideas that I have in my head about how reality has infinite dimensions, not 3, not 4, infinite, not 12, not whatever string theory. I have a firm understanding after working years with AI and data that we have infinite dimensionality. If infinity does exist, it's infinite. If it doesn't, it's a very large number of dimensionalities. Because you can look at me and say, you're 3 dimensions in space, you're a 4th dimension in time, and you're sitting there talking to me about these subjects. Okay. And then we can add a dimension. I'm wearing a black shirt right now. And then I could say, does it all change if I'm wearing a blue shirt? Okay. Now, distinguish between blue and black. How many dimensions, how many different shades of blue and black exist between a blue shirt and a black shirt? And, that could be just one single extra added dimension. Let's change the hat that I'm wearing. Let's change the haircut that I have, which is why I'm wearing a hat. Let's change a bunch of things that kind of don't matter, but are part of the dimensionality of what we're looking at. We can even dig into the individual pixels of the image. Do these even matter for this discussion? And when it boils down to it, is that we're in an infinite dimensional reality that we as humans always try to shrink down. This is a guitar pick if you're wondering. I'm just holding it. It kind of feels good on my fingers. We're an infinite dimensionality, objective reality, that us as humans have a brain that do dimensionality reduction and feature extraction so that we can understand our reality quickly, fast. If I throw a ball at you right now and it comes right at your face, you're going to instinctively reach up to grab it. That's how you have a short neural network that quickly responds to that happens before you even think about this. Someone threw it. You don't think, is that a ball coming at my face? And what's the coordinates that I need to reach up and grab? No, your body just does that. And it's a reaction. We are meant to live in this society, in this world, by evolutionary standards. And in reality, we don't live by those standards. I even talked to my mom the other day. We just lost my grandfather. And she was trying to ask, like, what's the purpose of living? What's the purpose of life? And I was trying to explain to, like, my understanding is we have no purpose. Our sole evolutionary purpose is to get to a certain point where we can reproduce and have children. And that's why so many people feel guilty when they don't reproduce. And then some people feed themselves a propaganda that we're too big of a society anyways, and some of us shouldn't be reproducing, when in reality, if you actually sat down and look at the data and removed all the variability behind it, you will find that societies naturally acquiesce to the amount of people you need to survive. We're not going to overpopulate the planet. It's that simple. That's a myth. That's a propaganda. I don't want to talk too much about that either. Like, everyone's like, we're overpopulated. Like, we will reach a threshold. Some of us will have children. Some of us won't. Okay. And if you look at things like Japan, I think Korea, some of these places that reach like these high tier safety and security, that instead of having popping out 5, 6, 7 children like my family did way back in the day, like some people do in like China and India back in the day, instead of popping out so many kids, sometimes people only have one kid or maybe no kid, and then you have a negative birth rate, and it's coming. Okay, so he's back. He's back. We're not going to overpopulate the earth. We're not going to run out of resources. Okay, that's not going to happen. We're going to run out of oil. Okay, but we're not going to run out of electricity. We're not going to run out of energy. We have a fucking sun. And you know what? The sun's going to disappear long after humans are extinct. So don't fucking worry about that. We focus on the wrong things too much in an infinite dimensional situation. Okay. And in reality, I think we're doing our dimensionality reduction wrong. We're being exposed to adversaries who purposefully want to inject misinformation and misunderstandings in our culture to a way that supplants true rational thinking, to the point that we're easily manipulated and controlled by picking and choosing certain buttons to press that manipulate our internal latent space and understanding of reality, to the point that we get everyone to vote against their best interests, or at least enough of us, very much like the evolution to make it to reproduction, the evolution to make it to the selection process for who should be our president. We end up selecting a president that destroys our country. And Canada just had an election and learned, don't do that, okay? And we keep doing this over and over. That's why there was overwhelming support for that corpse of a President Biden back in 2020, when someone said, just pick one of them and throw them up there. And they ignored Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, got rid of all the very well progressive candidates, threw up Biden, said he's our best progressive guy. No, he was your middle of the road average white guy. That's all he was. And he was dead. He was dead when you elected him. He was dead when we voted for him. But we all knew the plan back in 2020. Fuck Trump. Don't get this guy back in office. Don't let him wage jihad on America. Stop it. We're going to put up a fucking corpse who's going to do better than him. And what he got us is a genocide in Israel, and got us all saying, oh, no, you're anti-Semitic if you think killing brown people is wrong. Like, all right, you fucking piece of shit. We don't want Biden then. All right, bring us Kamala, please. Bring us Kamala. And what happened? There's no daylight between me and Biden. It's like, you lost. You fucking got an F. Your homework assignment was an F, straight F. You were A+, A+, A+. No daylight, F. Hug Liz Cheney, fucking F-. Like, it just went all the way down the road of, let's fuck this up as much as possible. And if you're confused on why this particular thing happened, if you were very confused on why the Democrats chose to flunk this class, to fail this election, you've got to understand, they were not trying to lose. They were trying to win on the terms that they wanted. And they assumed, again, hazardly, wrongfully, that by having an opponent such as Trump, then they can go out and fuck whoever they want. You got to understand that. They looked at Trump and said, none of our base would ever vote for Trump. So we can just put out the shittiest candidate with the shittiest policies, and we will get elected because, oh, if you vote for Trump, you're evil. And what happened, again, is one, going to the middle did not get Republican voters. As we've stated in this video and people have stated before, Trump beat out every Republican, beat out every centrist. The people that voted for Trump are not centrist. They're not middle. There is no middle that was willing to go for these ideas. The people that want you to think of that are the billionaire class. They want you to think more liberalism, more giving money away to companies, more welfare checks to the F-35 and other future DoD projects, and fuck your Medicare, fuck your medicine. We don't give a shit about you. We just want you believing we're the good guys in a situation while Trump is evil. And people will argue with you that are bots. I don't believe these are real people. And some of these strategists are paying for these bots. It costs you like $20 to get thousands of people arguing about you in the comment section. It only costs $20 to get thousands of people. That's all it costs. You can pay people pennies in Africa to log in and say, I'm a professional American that fucking thinks you're wrong. And it's like, you don't know what's right, what's wrong on these comment sections. And when you got things like Blue Sky, Twitter, which I guess is X now, Facebook, they all have been part of this situation. And Blue Sky, I'm on it a lot now, but it's also got a lot of things that have never been solved with the situation. You can pay like a small amount of money, maybe it costs more now due to inflation, funny, to get out there and say, oh, you're just pro-Trump, you're a Republican if you've got these opinions. And in reality, Democrats lost, not to Trump, they lost to their voters sitting on the couch. And people, when they ask, why did you sit on the couch? They're like, Gaza. So then you turn around and say, they spin it by saying, well, we lost because these stupid liberal lefties hate, want to be anti-Semitic, and they weren't going to be okay and acceptable unless their candidate was also anti-Semitic. So we need to move more center. And it's like, fuck your propaganda, you're fucking lying, you're a piece of shit, go to hell. No, why don't you bring us AOC again and talk about it later? And right now, when AOC is out there getting record numbers of support from who? They want to tell you she's got a OnlyFans community. Fuck you for saying that. She's got an OnlyFans community that are supporting her. Meanwhile, she's out in red Trump districts, pulling both Democrats and Republican voters, cheering and crying for her and Bernie Sanders. When Bernie Sanders gets up on stage and points out, you, what makes you stressed in life? And gets people in the crowd telling you exactly what they feel. That's a lot better than Kamala coming up on stage and saying, the economy's great. I don't know why everybody's upset. There's no daylight between me and Biden. He's the most progressive candidate we've ever had. Did she ask us? Did she ask us how we felt about a $50,000 tax credit for starting a business? No, she asked maybe a couple of podcasters that, but she didn't reach out to the crowds that she was supposedly drawing and saying, what makes you stressed? Will my $50,000 business startup tax credit help you? And she didn't get to reach out and have people say, no, we want Medicare. We need medicine. We need fucking help. It sucks out here. $400 grocery shopping. Come on, fix this. $40, please, to pay for meals like Mexico did. Do something. And they all say, oh, those are just liberal socialist lefties that are just, paid protesters that just they think the whole nation thinks like them when we don't. And I'm going to tell you right now, Trump supporters voted for Trump because they can't fucking afford to eat. They can't afford their rent. They can't afford education. They're thinking black people are stealing all the education slots. That's why they got rid of DEI. And it's not just racism. I will point out it's the racism, but it's not just racism. It's the fact that Democrats don't fix material conditions either. No party does. And Trump was the idea. There's people that voted. We got to keep fucking saying this. There's people that voted for both Kamala Harris, or voted for both Trump for president and AOC in New York City on that ballot. They put them both together on one ballot. AOC and Trump are diametrically opposed. They are two completely different people. One comes from lower class Hispanic raising in New York City, working as a fucking cleaner, working as with a father that died, who looked out as a waitress and said, I'm not fucking doing it. I'm running for president. I'm running for a position. I'm running for Congress. And then you got Donald Trump, Donald Trump ruins his inheritance on a set of bad business opportunities that goes all the way to the point he even became successful on The Apprentice and somehow became so broke that he had to run for president just so he can earn money. Those are two different people. Two fucking completely different people. And people voted for both of them. They put both their names on the same ballot. And you're trying to tell me that those people, those Republicans that show up to a Bernie Sanders rally and cry and cheer for him, you're going to tell me right now that we can't do what Bernie and AOC's doing. We need to go more to the center to get those voters. You want to tell me that? You want to tell me, to get the voters, the Republican voters, the ones that voted for Trump, we don't want to do we don't want to reach out to them by having them show up to a Bernie Sanders rally and cry and say, I can't afford medicine. My son recently just died and I am in so much fucking debt right now. It's up to my ankles and up to my neck, and I'm gonna fucking end it all if I can't get past this. And I voted Trump last time and I might vote for you this time. You want to tell me, oh no, get rid of Bernie, get rid of AOC. No. We just move a little bit more to the right and we're gonna get that voter. Think about that. And I'm not speaking to Democratic strategists. I am speaking to other fellow Americans that I don't give a shit who you voted for. Did you vote Kamala? Did you vote Trump? Did you not vote? Who gives a shit? What matters now is what you're going to do from this day forward. Are you going to get out in the streets and are you going to stand with us and protest? Are you going to show up to the ballot box and vote correctly from this day forward? You may make mistakes in the future. We can talk about that. We can talk about it as human beings communicating with one another. But I want you, please, to get active in your community. I'm struggling myself to just get out of bed. So maybe you're not. Maybe you're a working person. Maybe you got free time. Maybe you don't. If you can't do things, if you can't get up and join protests, if you can't get up and like waste time, I want you to at least talk to people around you about things and ask questions. And don't judge. Don't say, are you a liberal or a lefty or are you Republican or Democrat? No, just remove that. Remove your labels. We're infinitely dimensional reality. We boil down things into something that we think is easier to think about, but we've been misled to believe that those simple baskets are Democrat, Republican, moderate, liberal, leftist, conservative. Fuck that. Stop that. Stop that shit. That neighbor that told me stop that shit when calling Trump Hitler, I'm telling you right now, stop that shit. Stop bidding people when you don't even have the criteria to bend them to begin with. In my lifetime, I've seen people jump all the way from libertarian Ron Paul supporters all the way to Bernie Sanders supporters, all the way to Trump supporters. Same people, same ideologies, drastically different ideologies that they're supporting. They have similar ideologies themselves, but they are being led, trying to figure out how to fix the problems in their life, trying to fix these things that we all clearly see as day, that something is wrong. And these people are not fucking dumb. They're not idiots. They're just other human beings that are being force-fed lies and propaganda and are trying to get out there and make a difference with their life, make a difference in society. And at some point, we thought it was going to be Ron Paul. We thought a libertarian movement was going to do it. I thought it was that. And I was naive enough to believe that. And you know what? I don't fucking believe in removing regulations. You know why? I'm brown. I came from poverty, and somehow I was led to believe we need free markets. You know what? That's gone. Am I wrong about Bernie? Back when Bernie came out in 2016, I think, between him and Clinton, and I didn't support Clinton. I didn't like her that much. I thought that she was crazy. But I lost friendships when I was trying to tell people, you got to vote for like Clinton, otherwise we're all going to lose. I was trying to tell people, don't primary Clinton out because she's going to be the winner. And in the meantime, I listened to Bernie Sanders and I was like, he probably doesn't know what he's talking about. And I had to change my view on that, because even though my viewpoint on how to fix it has changed, what Bernie has said, I believed that all my life and just assumed it won't work. And to this day now, I regret that, because I don't believe more liberalism, more libertarian, more free market is going to fix any of this shit. Because obviously what's failing right now, it's not that we've left a free market. It's not that we've had a free market and that we left the free market and that fucked everything up. That's not it. The problem is we're putting our pressures and our regulations in the wrong areas. We're trying to make things harder for poor people and not hard enough on the billionaires that are stealing all the wealth. And after spending so much of my time in these past few years staring at the stock market, understanding stocks and tickers and how money moves from capital, this thing to that thing, and it just dawned on me that it's all fucking fugazi. It's all fake. Money is fake when it comes to the stock market. It's not real. And but the thing is, money is real in society, and we need money to survive. So when they're playing around with millions of dollars and sometimes billions and trillions in the stock market, there's people that can't fucking afford a $30 meal. So I want you to really like take a step back from all the things that you've been taught, everything that you thought, and you gotta. I wish people would be more like me and be a bit more flexible in their reality, a bit more flexible in their understanding. It's okay to leave MAGA. It's okay to not vote for Trump again. It's okay to say I have a change of heart. It's okay to say I am wrong. I'm always wrong on different things. I accept it. Sometimes I had my ex fiance kept telling me like, you need to be more assertive. I'm like, I've learned over time not to be assertive because there's so many things I can get wrong. No matter how smart I think I am, no matter how much I study and learn it, there's things I can get wrong. And I'm okay. I'm comfortable with just saying maybe it's this way. Let's talk it out. Okay. And oftentimes recently I find I'm fucking right on a lot of things, but I can't have that attitude everywhere I go because nobody likes a guy that knows it all. Nobody likes a person that knows everything, especially a person that apparently knows everything and gets some things wrong. You can be wrong and it's fine. You can be very comfortable being a person that says, oh, oops, I'm sorry. I made a mistake. I should not have done that. We're not going to do that in the future. We're going to figure out a way to remedy this. Can we talk together about how we're going to solve the problem I might have created? People don't like ownership. People don't like owning things that they've done. And oftentimes people like to live in this false facade bubble of a reality they have and just not accept that things are as bad as they're ignoring it. So it's the same reason why when you talk to people and you're like, oh, you can't share facts that Trump supports. They don't believe in facts. If the right people tells the Trump supporter enough over and over and over the facts and keep painting it in different perspectives in a charitable way, in a way that doesn't make them feel like the enemy, in such a way that convinces them to finally see things from your angle, from a correct angle, which we often like to pretend like everyone has an equal opinion. Some people actually know what the fuck they're talking about. And you can't just pretend everything's Nietzsche, everything's nihilist. You got to be like, some things people know. I'm sorry. 2 + 2 does equal 4, okay? 1 + 1 does equal 2. 1 × 1 does equal 1. If you have problems with the fundamentals, then rely on an expert because you're not capable of understanding the fundamentals right now. And I think I learned some of this also watching Neil deGrasse Tyson try to break down the, I forgot that actor's name. Because there's people in my family that believes that. He's like, he put out this scientific theory and said that 1 × 1 doesn't equal 1. And I was like, dude, no. And I have to get to the point where I know abstract algebra. So I have to explain abstract algebra to people that have no college education and explain to them in realistic terms of why we accept and agree 1 × 1 = 1. Because we can change that. If you want, we can change that, but now we have to go through and change every other damn theory. And it makes more reasonable sense to just say what we know. 1 × 1 = 1. 1 + 1 = 2. Those are axioms. They're axioms. Just leave it. Go look at what an axiom is. We agreed. This is where we're starting. You can't just keep changing the definition wherever it feels reasonable. And that's where, I think that's where a lot of people struggle with math, is rather than appropriately learning by mastery all the definitions, all the lambdas, all the axioms, all the theorems and such. lemmas, I meant to say. Instead of learning all these different things, in order to get by on a homework problem, you come up with a myth that works for that particular approach, and you never go deeper into the harder problem. The next, like you do all the odd problems that have the answer in the back, and then you don't do the even problem that breaks your concept of what you thought. That rule that you created in your head that helped you get the even problems correct, the odd problems correctly. You don't do the even problem and realize, oh shit, no, if I tweak this a little, oh, now I understand it. And anytime I'm trying to mentor someone in math, I often try to repeat over and over the same thing. And if they ask me a complex question and I give them the same answer over and over, the whole point of it is to let them know you're missing something here. If you keep asking in different ways and I give you the same answer back that's factually correct, then maybe as you're attacking it from all these different angles, all these different questions, that you're still coming to this truth that I keep giving you, then maybe you're thinking about it wrong. And then I always love it when I'm talking to a person and it clicks and they're like, oh, you meant this. And then it's a cakewalk there for everything else, because I broke whatever propaganda you had in your head. I broke whatever misinformation that you probably created on accident or someone gave you. And now you have an understanding of reality that grounds you and makes you think, oh, it was silly to think, it was silly to do what I was doing before. Why did I even think that was correct to do before? Because that's like when you've been in school for as long as I've been, from 2005 all the way up to 2024 recently, nonstop studying, education, learning, and just constantly proving myself right or wrong, and getting to the point of understanding that the more that I learn, the less that I actually know. And understanding, like, I feel like college is really just one great grand experiment to explain to people there's some things you're going to learn, and there's things that experts learn that you will not touch. You rely on them. You grab their expertise and put it in position for what you need. That's how you learn the chain of communication across different kind of fields and expertise, because there's some things that you're going to devote all your time learning, and there's things that you're never going to touch. And those guys are touching it. Those folks are touching it. You will ask them the question, and then that communication, because you're going to understand something that they don't know. So you're going to feed that back and forth. And when you're on a research project, that's how it works. You bring up literature, you bring up concepts that you know, that you've read in the past. They bring up concepts and literature that they've known in the past, and you merge those ideas and collaborate to create something brand new. And maybe create something old, create something that's been always true. A lot of research is just discovery. It's just discovering something that's already existed. So it's very important when it comes to something like science, when it comes to something about understanding life and reality, is you really have no room for propaganda and misinformation. And I try to spend so many years avoiding social networks to avoid being exposed to that kind of misinformation, and spend more time studying, learning facts, and how to build my reality. But ever since this whole Gaza situation, ever since like my school getting ripped apart, ever since Trump getting repeatedly elected, and I've had to dive into those parts. And I feel like all of those have led to and contributed to my burnout. Not so much as I think the moral injury that I feel from participating in the military, the moral injury I feel from some of my work potentially being used in atrocious situations, which I doubt it actually was, but it feels like it was. Me being scared to actually openly talk about it to people, afraid of the repercussions that could come. But I'm telling you, like, you've probably seen it. Like, I feel a lot more natural, a lot more released, a lot better talking about this stuff for nearly 3 hours straight, that it needs to come out. We need to talk more. We need to communicate more, and just have patience and understanding. Recognize when somebody's attacking you with disinformation and misinformation. It's just the starting point. Please talk to your neighbor, talk to your friends, talk to your family. And we will get out of this together. You do not want a war. You don't want a war. Because I think to you, you're thinking, if we go to war, I'm just killing other brown people that have nothing to do with me, or I'm killing white people, or I'm killing black people. You don't think about the fact that you might be shooting your own brother. Like my own great 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 grandfather who fought for the North in the Civil War, and his own blood relation brother, separated by slavery in the South, fought for the South. And luckily, after the war, he was able to go down and pick up his brother from the South as a freed slave and start a whole business up here in Indiana. But like war, you can die in a war. Your friends, your family can die in a war. Your natural state of living will become survival mode. Um, you may be trained in shooting, cool, but are you trained in hunting and foraging and robbing and looting each other when you need to, and killing people that come on your property without there being law enforcement to protect you, and then suddenly being swept up in a frontline battle that destroys your house and everything you know, and being left as a refugee? Are you ready for that? Is that what you want in America right now? We don't want a war or anything like that to get out of hand to save us. We need to be together, united peacefully as people that just look at this administration and say, I'm not fucking doing this. We are not doing this. I'm not building weapons, AI weapons for the government anymore. I've taken my stand, and now I'm poor because of it. Now I'm living in I got a guitar, cool. I got a car, I got a house. At some point, it's all going to disappear, and I won't have the means to replace it. I won't have the means to get it back, and I'm going to have to figure that out. And I don't know how it's going to be, but I'm definitely not going to make weapons anymore for the government. I'm not coding AI for the government. I am fucking done. That ship's hell. And if they wanted me to keep making the supposed weapons to protect against, like, I don't know who, Russia, China, or whatever, from using their technology against us, like, maybe they shouldn't have participated in the fucking genocide. That probably would have been the first step. Stop just randomly killing brown people for what? Fun, money, profits, political motivation, whatnot. My stand is there. I'm done. I am fucking done. And until I figure out what to do next, I absolutely refuse to contribute to the US war machine. I'm over it. And I am not going to fault my military brothers and sisters who are still fighting to keep our country safe. If you still choose to serve, that's fine. I mean, there's plenty of reasons to serve. There's a book I read that came with there's like 4 different kind of people. Those that join because they just want to kill, which are the most evil. But then there's those that join because they want to serve. That there's those that join because their family has served, so it's legacy. And then there's those that serve because they have nothing else to do, and it offers them an option out. And many people choose a mixture of those 4 kind of ideas. For me, it was, I have family that did it. I had nothing else to do, and I wanted to serve my country. But the one thing I didn't want to do was kill people, the 4th one. And I was exposed to the fact that I was hiding that all these years, that, yeah, you did serve in a thing that does kill people, and you came to grips with that reality. And it's been very hard to come about that. And a lot of people I know that have served very long years in the military, successful years, and accomplished a lot, mentored a lot of people, and they probably did all that without ever touching a gun. They probably stood watch a few times. You know, they did all that without shooting a rifle, without shooting at anything. Because, like I said before, the military is a big, giant country. You've got different branches, which are the different countries or states in that country. They all work amongst each other, but primarily they're all designed to be self-contained, working within itself, except for the Marines. They ride on Navy ships. I don't know what else to say there. But yeah, I am not against the military. I'm not against people that serve in the military. I am against those that take advantage of us proud people who serve our country, to go kill and slaughter villages of people, to go kill families for political means. I am 100% against that. I'm against politicians that take advantage of our military. I'm against any person that joins the military specifically to do something like that. So I will never be one of those lefties that tell you the military is evil. I think the military is highly necessary, highly important. I will tell you that there's no need to bomb Yemen. There's no need to bomb Gaza. I fucking disagree with that. There's never going to be a need to bomb civilians. There's never going to be a need to just show up and blanket bomb anything. We should have learned that from Dresden. We should have learned that from World War II when we carpet bombed the shit out of Japan and then dropped 2 nukes on them because they're just brown. We didn't give a fuck. They were aliens. They killed us first, so we had to kill all of them. We should have gotten rid of that mindset. That mindset should have been gone from the beginning. Like this whole concept of that this other country is full of alien beings that don't deserve to live. That should have been fucking wiped out of our consciousness. But every so often, just like the teacher said, every 6 years we got a new villain we've got to attack. And ever since I've been around in the US, the villain has always been me. It's always been the brown-skinned people, the people that come from a different country, even though I don't fucking come from a different country. It's like you look at me and say, I'm the fucking enemy. Look at my beard. Holy shit. Look how scary and evil this fucking thing is. Look, you know what's evil is my hair. I don't know what to do with the hair. I wear a fucking beanie. I want to grow it out, but it's weird. And people have made me feel guilty, I guess, for having hair that just feels weird. I've always kept it buzz or a fade or something like that. Now it's like I got long afro-ish curly hair mixes between the two, and I don't know what to do with it because it looks fucking crazy. And I am crazy, I guess, but I don't know. I don't want to say live, laugh, love because that's insane, but we got to treat each other better. And the only way out of this is to be unified together as a people. If you really want a good example what to look at, go look up Reconstruction history. Go look at the Fusion Party. I forgot which state. It led to atrocities. It led to a whole fucking war in the South, pretty much, against black people. But go look at what the Fusion Party was. And if you want to talk to me about starting third parties, I'm going to point you there because we will never make a third party that succeeds in this country. The only way that's going to work is coalition building. Obama told you that before, and he won with it, so maybe listen to him. Trump literally used coalition building to get all the racist Nazis together with the working class, with the rich millionaires, which the petit bourgeoisie, with the ultra bourgeoisie, to the bougie motherfuckers that all banded together, and all of a sudden millionaires became racist working class. And I want y'all to really think about that kind of coalition that Trump built and what kind of coalition we can create if all of us suffering with major bills, major debts, inability to pay rent, inability to work. What kind of coalition can we build if we are the majority? We are the majority. There's more of us than there are billionaires and millionaires. There's more people struggling working for Uber Eats that can barely afford to even eat from Uber Eats. They double charge everything. Think about this. I want you to really think about this. What kind of coalition can we build if we get all the people that voted for Trump, all the people that voted for Kamala, get them all together and say, please, Bernie Sanders and AOC is telling you right now your problem and how they're planning to fix it. Go listen, go talk, go discuss this, have a discussion. Be friendly and cordial to these people, to each other, and don't just look at you and say, I can't believe your racist ass voted for Trump twice. Like, look, I fucking feel that way. I've known he's a piece of shit since 2015. So some of y'all, like, fuck some of y'all that voted for Kamala this go around too. Because, like, it took y'all this long to figure it out. Like, I get it too. But still, we got to build coalition. You can't just keep being like me, telling everyone go fuck yourself if you're not going to vote for the right person. Because even now, it's like, I go on Blue Sky and I say, I understand why people didn't vote Kamala. And everyone says, you're the reason why she lost. I'm like, motherfucker, I was the first one that said everyone jump behind Hillary. Please, fuck you. Anyway, that's all I got. Kind of didn't want to leave it on a fuck you, but it's 3 hours. So I'm going to end it here. Please be kind to each other. Don't curse at each other like me. Curse at Trump. Fuck Trump. Fuck Elon. Fuck Trump. Fuck the billionaires. Fuck Kevin O'Leary. He's a dumb immigrant piece of shit. If you want to hate immigrants, hate the immigrant billionaires. How about that? We'll leave it there. Y'all have a good day.